Good morning. Good morning. Happy Tuesday. It's November 21st. Replay crew, love you. Down below will be all the timestamps for the things that we are covering today. It's going to be a little bit of a slower stream. Look, this is the time of year where I love to slow down just a little bit. We take a very, very slow Thanksgiving week. We do not rush all over the place. We have set some boundaries about that. So we make sure that we take our time Thanksgiving week to just hang out. So whether you are in the States celebrating Thanksgiving or the harvest or anything else this week, I am thankful for y'all. I am thankful to have the ability to slow down a little this week, to have the kids home, to not be dropping people off at school, and to just really get to spend a little bit of time at home, playing games in the evening, hanging out. We do our own like non-obligation Thanksgiving dinner, which means no turkey. Everyone in my family hates turkey. So Wolfhard asked, am I hosting or traveling? Neither. We're hanging. We're hanging out. We do a like full pajamas day. We play video games, we play board games, we hang out and then have a dinner that everyone in my family gets to pick something that they love the most. And we do steaks and Brussels sprouts and bacon and au gratin potatoes and crescent rolls and all the things. We just have a chill day. But my parents don't like to travel this time of year. We don't like to travel this time of year. My son has a lot of obligations with band this time of year. We've got a championship football game or something on Friday. We like the weather here this time of year versus traveling back to California where it might be 90 degrees with the Santa Ana winds kicking you in the sinuses. So we enjoy a drizzly, rainy, gray morning with some slow down. This is probably the last morning I'll roll out to grab Starbucks because it'll be making lattes and breakfast from scratch for the rest of the week and just hanging out. So we really appreciate a slow Thanksgiving and slow holidays. We really, really try to slow it down during the holidays. It's something that refreshes all of our family, especially my introverted kids. My extroverted husband is sometimes like a puppy, and I'm like, you need to go for a run. Like, go. You just go burn some energy. The rest of us need a book and a blanket. And then we're going to play Cafe Chaos, which my oldest often wins at, and sometimes my youngest cheats, which we don't allow. We are ruthless when it comes to board games in this family, but there will be lots of board games. But I will get back in December to see my folks, and then we will do all of the things. So we take slow holidays. The holidays for me used to be a lot of running around. This time of year has always been a favorite. That's mostly dictated by the court schedule in California. Emily, what do you mean your favorite holidays are dictated by the California court schedule? Look, y'all. Thanksgiving week is the only time you got 2 days off together. You get Thursday and Friday off because courts are closed. So if you could also get like a Wednesday off, you were off Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and then the weekend. And it felt decadent. There were years where I was so busy in trial that those were the only days I got off. And it felt absolutely like the break that I needed. Like a 4-day weekend felt like the time that I needed off. And so it has long been a favorite time of year because it was just like, But my brother works with the fire department, so he doesn't get the same type of time off. My sister-in-law is a surgeon. She doesn't get the same type of time off. So we're the ones who are just like, I'll be in the bath at 7 p.m. and then going to bed by 9. That's how it is. Jamie W., my mom worked for the airlines. So we're used to flexible holidays as well, especially when we were younger. So we really just make it what we want it. But I get, for all of you that work in healthcare, I get it. When I worked in the court system, it's why those 2 days off were so important to me. I needed them, and everyone needs time. I'm also not so set on it has to be this day. Like I don't know, it has to be this day or that day. I'm not really tied up about it because I have celebrated Christmases days before, Thanksgiving days after. When my brother was in college, There's water polo tournaments that always go on this time of year for men's water polo, not women's. Women's is in the spring, but there was water polo. So my parents would just travel around to whatever hotel they were staying at for nationals and go to Thanksgiving at whatever hotel they were at. So we've always been kind of flexible on holidays. I'm not flexible on everything. Ask my husband when I yell at him about loading the dishwasher. I'm not flexible on everything. But holidays, I'm like, if the intention is there, I'm kind of good. I don't really care what day it is. Like, it's a day. We can get together and celebrate together and eat food and take a slow day. We can pick that to be any day. So we just pick it. And I kind of love those traditions, and I love getting to slow down. So we will be back for members only on Friday, but I will be off of social a bit the rest of the week because I'm just going to be hanging with the family. Also, I have to say that I am blessed and thankful for my children. My children sleep in. Like, I don't know how I got this lucky at this age to have kids that sleep in, but my kids sleep in. Like, they sleep in. So it is such a delight. I don't understand waking teens up at all. I'm like, let them sleep. Let them sleep. But my kids sleep in, and it's such a blessing. It's so nice when the whole family's like, miss me before like 10 a.m. It's such a delight. For all of you that work retail, I've done that too. Black Friday was absolutely like my nemesis, but also the adrenaline that carries you through the day. The adrenaline that carries you through the day. And though I was working in retail before online shopping was as big as it is today because I'm old. And so it was still like line up outside for doorbuster sales kind of Black Fridays. I haven't seen that as much in recent years because a lot of it you can do online, but it was special. So just a reminder, if you are engaging in retailing, be kind to your retail workers and they will be kind to you. They're exhausted. They don't get paid enough and they don't get breaks enough. I could say that about almost every industry that's in our chat, except maybe me. I get to take my own breaks and I'm good. So my first retail job trained me during Black Friday on a register. That's cruel and unusual punishment. Unacceptable. But I think a lot of us have worked those jobs, and I absolutely want to make sure my kiddo has those experiences, because I think when you've worked in food service or retail or what have you, you have a different level of respect for people, but also B, an understanding of sometimes that the general public is not always easy to deal with. But that aside, oh my God, Chrissy Ridge. I've got my 10 grandkids staying with me Thanksgiving night. That's going to be delightful. Do you have Uno Attack? Uno Attack is my favorite game to play with the family, other than Cafe Chaos. But Cafe Chaos, you have to order online, and it could take a minute to get here. But Uno Attack, you can get it like Target or Walmart or wherever. It has a little machine and you hit it. And so when you have to draw a card, you hit it. And you might draw one card, you might draw like 10 cards, and it spits them out. It is absolutely hilarious. It is a hilarious game, and you like point it at people and then hit it, and it's like whoosh. It's so much fun. So if you have that many grandkids, Uno Attack might be really fun for the group. Exploding Kittens, also very fun. Throw Burrito, also really fun. But with 10, Throw Burrito could be a lot unless you get the outdoor version. So, all right. We need to get into our topics. Let me tell you what we're talking about today. The replay crew is going to be like, what are we talking about today? We haven't even rolled the intro yet. Here's what we're talking about today. First, we need to talk about this motion in Idaho. The judge granted the defense motion to remove media cameras from the courtroom with a caveat. So we're going to talk about that. And then we've got like a 5-hour Murdaugh hearing. Most of it is downtime with a little bit of court time that we have to cover today, because our next live stream as a group of law nerds, non-members live stream, our next live stream is going to be covering Murdaugh's sentencing with all of the victim impact statements and such. So we are going to go through all of that next Tuesday, and we're going to cover that hearing live all the way through. So I see a lot of questions in the chat. I'm going to give lots of time for Q&A. I have not gotten into Delphi yet, but now that Murdaugh is rolling kind of off, we're going to be rolling in a few more court cases. Delphi is going to be one of them. I know that the YNW Melly case just got pushed back again, but that is going to be on the docket when it comes back for trial. We're going to be watching that retrial kind of with a fresh eyes. I don't know how much I'll cover it before the trial or if we'll just go into the trial and be like, we're going into the trial and let's see what happens. So I will be pulling up into Delphi. We will get into that a bit. There are a few other cases that are going to get added to the docket as some of these older cases are rolling off. So there will be more. Tomorrow is a standalone episode of the Emily Show covering the P. Diddy civil lawsuit and settlement, the whirlwind lawsuit and settlement. So we're going to be doing that. Toddy goes to trial in February. I am working on that. So we've got lots to do with all of this. So I will get to Q&A at the end, but we are going to roll the intro. We've got a few more housekeeping matters. We got a little bit of a chitty chat, and then we are going to go directly into what is going on in Idaho and how this judge is taking control of the cameras.
Hey there, I'm Emily D. Baker, the internet's go-to legal analyst, breaking down the legal side of the pop culture and entertainment stories we can't stop talking about. I'm a big fan of the cursey words. I've been a licensed attorney for over 17 years, but this is not legal advice. This is where the law nerds unite to talk about facts, not... Let's get into it.
All right, first housekeeping item, and this will be coming out in the app. The members already know what I'm going to be talking about. Emily, did you share your screen? No, not yet. Sure didn't do that yet, but now I am. We are having our Black Friday Cyber Monday sale going on over in the Law Nerd shop. It is a staggered sale. Why is that hard to say? Team, we're never doing this again. I can't say it. Emily, do you make business decisions based on what's easy to talk about? Yes, I do. $10 off orders of $50 to $75 and 15% off orders over $75. The members, you guys have a code in your member spaces for a larger discount. And we've got our order deadline for Christmas delivery all posted on the shop. So if you guys are ready for all the new that the shop has to offer, we added the Bring the Emily. You guys asked. We were going to add this during the Murdaugh trial, but then Murdaugh was like, I'm going to plead guilty. So we're like, you know what? We're just adding it now in time for the sale. Because what I never want to do is add something after the sale. And then those of you who purchase stuff on the sale are like, well, damn it, I wish that was there. I hate that so much. I hate it so much. So we added Bring the Emily in time for the sale so that you guys could pick out what you need. And ask and you shall receive. Look, I have long complained. Where is it? I have long complained. It's hiding from me. Where did my cup go? There. I have long complained that this cup with the black handle, I love the way that they look. I love the way that these look. But the original one is not big enough for all the coffee. We can't bring all of the coffee in this cup. The new ones have 2 sizes. So when you go to get the Bring the Emily cup, if you want this one, you can get the bigger size. These are now the 15-ounce size, not the 11. It says 12. It's 12 if you fill it to the rim, so you're going to burn your face if it spills over. We now have the 15-ounce size in this. So these are the XL cups now. These are the 15-ounce. And then the mega cup is the other ones. And the mega cup is a bit bigger than the 15-ounce. The mega cup is a mega cup. They don't do these in the black handle that I love yet. But if you go to buy the any of these cups, you will see a drop-down menu where you can pick the size. So when it says size, you can pick either the 15-ounce or the 20-ounce. 20-ounce is the mega cup. 15-ounce ends up being a little bit of a stretched version of this. So when you look at the shop, make sure you look at the size option and pick the one that works for you. So 15 ounce is the XL, Mega Cup is the 20 ounce. And if you want the Mega Pint, not with the black handle, but you can get the Mega Pint in the Bring the Emily with just the white handle. So lots and lots of options for all of you who need to embiggen your drinking vessels. And then we also have the travel mug, which is even larger than that. So the travel mugs are 25 ounces and have the travel lid and all the rest of it. So those, where is my travel mug? Hiding somewhere. Oh, it's probably in the kitchen because I use them. So those are a 25 ounce mug. So you've got all of your drinking containers, all of them. And you can just go to home and it'll show you all of what's new from We Live Here Now to Lawnard University to Bring the Emily. We've got all of our new stuff. And then we've got this divided for you by type of thing if you're looking for stickers or mugs or what have you. So that is what's going on in the Lawnard shop. The discounts automatically applied, 10% if orders over $50 to $75, orders $75 and up, 15%. For the members, check your member spaces. You have a separate embiggened discount code. So Nick White, thank you. 15 ounces is just shy of 500 milliliters for the people struggling with conversion. Thank you, Nick. I would have struggled with conversion. So I appreciate it. Yes, these do ship internationally. How long is the sale for? We are rolling through Cyber Monday, but we normally give a little bit of a scooge room. So do not worry. We do not turn these off immediately. So we are rolling through Cyber Monday. So do not fear. Actually, no. Sorry, the team is telling me we are running through the order deadline for Christmas. So through December 10th. Emily, are you wrong? Yes, through December 10th. So up until your order date, please make a candle. We will see. Sourcing candles can be hard. What's best for coffee stains? Crest white strips work really well for coffee stains. So, unless you're not talking about teeth. In which case, I have not had any of these mugs stain. They're great. This mug, the 20 ounce mug, is heavy. All right. Emily's like, but wait, there's more. Yep, me. all the time. But I wanted to give you the housekeeping thing. So new podcast tomorrow. I will be in the chat as we talk about the P. Diddy lawsuit that Cassie brought and the settlement. I go through the lawsuit. I do not go through every detail, and I will absolutely have the lawsuit linked if you want to read it. I try to make all of my coverage, particularly of lawsuits that allege significant sexual violence. I try to make sure that we can cover the law part of the lawsuit without getting into every single detail so that more of you can engage with the law. And then if you want to look more into the stories, you can look more into the stories. For those of you that said Emily has ADD, ADHD friendly deadlines, yes. And we will be reminding you in the app at lawnardapp.com as we're getting to the end of the time for the sale. So we will give you ample reminders because I know exactly what it's like to put something in your cart and then 2 weeks later be like, wait, did I order that thing? It didn't show up yet. And then go back and be like, it didn't show up because I never finished checkout because something distracted me. How often does that happen? More than I would like to admit. It absolutely happens to me. So I hate the like high pressured sales. Like you get a discount for 3 seconds only. It's like, oh, miss me. I do not buy stuff when I feel pressured to buy that way. And I figured if I hate it, lots of you probably hate it. So, all right, everyone, are we ready to move on to Idaho? Are we ready? Prophecy, so relatable. I hate it. I hate high pressured sales, but I also hate when I thought I bought something and absolutely forgot to finish the checkout. It happens to me when I go to buy Starbucks. Like I go to do Starbucks on my app. Today was triple stars day for me. I don't know about y'all. So I went to go get Starbucks. Here was my morning. We're just gonna, just give me a second. So today was triple stars day on the app. And as I said, I will do slow breakfasts around here with the kids, pancakes and bacon, eggs and biscuits and things like that, and hang out and make lattes at home and whatever. I will do all of that. But today was Triple Stars Day, and there's one thing I really like, which is maximizing rewards program. The joy I get when I move up in rewards programs. I'm waiting for Delta to invite me to Delta 360. Like, it would make my day. This is probably a personality trait. I freaking love a rewards program, but the like neuralistic programming of rewards programming, like if you spend money, we'll give you extra points. I'm like, yes, girl math, rewards program math. It's like, I'm actually saving money because it's Triple Stars Day. Here's the problem. I went to go use my my Starbucks app to order Starbucks. By the way, I've linked my Starbucks app to my Delta app, so I also get miles when I buy Starbucks. So I'm basically earning money. My husband would be like, Emily, that's not how that works. It is. I get stars, and when I buy Starbucks cups like these, I pay for them with my stars. So I get stars, and then I also get miles. So I'm really just maximizing. These are my monkeys. You basically lose money if you don't spend money, right? So me in my head is like, it's Triple Stars Day. I need to go to Starbucks. And I'm looking at the Starbucks app, and the pumpkin cream cold brew is sold out at like the 3 Starbucks I normally go to. So there are Starbucks. I do not live near a Starbucks. There are Starbucks in 2 vastly different directions. So you have to choose. But the 3 that are reasonably close in one direction, none of them had pumpkin cream cold brew. So I had to go to my D-list Starbucks. And I know that it's rare that there is a D-list Starbucks, but this is my D-list Starbucks for a number of reasons. One, the 2-lane highway. Is it a 1-lane highway? I don't know. If there's 1 lane going each direction, chat. If there's 1 lane going each direction, is it a 1-lane highway or a 2-lane highway? I still don't know, because I lived in California. Everything had multiple lanes. Well, almost everything had multiple lanes. Anyway, the 1 and or 2-lane highway, 1 lane each direction that I have to take. That's a 2-lane. Thank you. I had to. It is always the one that has the traffic. So there is a good bit of traffic to get to the Starbucks going the other direction, the D-list Starbucks. Part of the reason it's D-list is because the traffic to get to that particular Starbucks sucks. Also, it is always understaffed. This is not the fault of the people that work at the Starbucks. This is the fault of whoever is staffing that Starbucks. But because it is always understaffed, the waits are ridiculously long. And I knew this going in, and yet it was so much longer than I thought it was going to be. I was sitting waiting to pick up my drink for a million years. And I was like looking at my time tick away going, I am going to be late to stream. And I, to my credit, was not later than normal, but was still late. But I wanted so badly to get, if it's going to be my last pumpkin cream cold brew of the season, because now they are sold out everywhere, then I am going to enjoy my quadruple stars or whatever. And I need to have one last pumpkin cream cold brew. So today might be the last pumpkin cream cold brew, the week of Thanksgiving. Who knows? Maybe they'll refresh the inventory. Maybe they won't. But they've already rolled out the Christmas menu, so I am not optimistic. So the rest of the holiday season, I will be perfectly fine making my lattes at home, which I will share with you tomorrow. Do ADHD people ever just chill? How do you fall asleep? Sometimes my brain tires itself out. Buttercup. Also, I take sleep supplements. It's called Sleep Mode. It has a lot of magnesium in it, and I love it. Emily rolls up to Delta. My airlines offers Starbucks. Look, I get, with my Starbucks app, I get Delta miles and stars. Double reward. Autumn, the ADHD RD. There is zero chill. I listen to audiobooks. I also listen to audiobooks to fall asleep, or I listen to streams to fall asleep. The reason I like audiobooks, I also use the Calm app, the sleep stories in the Calm app to fall asleep. The reason is because YouTube, those aren't the same. sometimes the videos that they will play if I fall asleep to a video and do something else are too loud and they will wake me up. But I have a new pair of sleep headphones coming because right now I use my Apple headphones and I'm very, very excited about new sleep headphones. So I will let you guys know how I like them because it's great. So Steve says, I'll put on old Emily trial streams and I try not to yell. I'm very excited to try new sleep headphones. Brain always goes burr all the time. All the time. I need I didn't know there was a podcast called Sleep With Me. That is fun. I love it. So I will put on streams. I will put on my audiobook. I have started screenshotting my audiobook, like a photo of where I'm at before I lay down, because I put on the timer for like an hour and I will fall asleep within maybe 10 minutes. And then and then when I wake up, I have to zoom back in my audiobook, though I'm going to start listening to books I've already listened to, because when I listen to new books, then I have to go back too much. You guys, I love all of the suggestions. I love all the suggestions. Love it. Love it. Love it. Love it. Love it. Does coffee at night ever help you sleep? Because it works for me. A lot of ADHD people, caffeine absolutely helps calm the brain down just enough. It's why they give us stimulant medication. It's why in college people were trying to steal my Ritalin, because it just definitely works a little bit different. But do ADHD people have chills? Sometimes I'm chill. My brain isn't, though. My brain is like, it's just trying to manage it. If I keep it entertained, it behaves well. It's kind of like a toddler sometimes. Like if you keep it engaged, it won't start screaming at you. So that's where we're at. All right. Zelda lo-fi sounds amazing. I love lo-fi. I don't think this is a neurotypical neurodivergent thing, but maybe it is. Noam Chomsky interviews and speeches. He has the most boring voice. Finding somebody who has a lulling voice is also helpful. Outlander is on my list. Zelda lo-fi sounds amazing. We should get to Idaho, shall we? Chad, are we ready to go to Idaho? Because it's going to be a quick one. We're going to do like a layover in Idaho, and then we're going to go to South Carolina. So we're going to swoop a doop, and then we will board EDB Air to go to South Carolina because we're going to be there much longer today. So, Chad, are you ready? Let's come along, chat. Let's go to Idaho. So y'all remember in the Bryan Kohberger case, the defense made a motion a while ago to remove cameras from the courtroom, and the defense and the prosecution were all just like, we're cool. We're cool with it. And then the media coalition, represented by Kathy Olson, the attorney that's also the plaintiff's attorney in the Idaho TikTok defamation case, came in for the media coalition, was like, but Your Honor, you can't just yeet all the cameras from the courtroom. There's a bunch of reasons why there are interests in keeping cameras in the courtroom. Size of the courtroom is part of it. Interest in the community is part of it. This case impacts the larger university community, but also communities in Idaho and outside of Idaho. And to keep people from like sleeping on the pavement in Idaho outside of this courtroom and turning the inside of the courtroom into a circus, cameras in the courtroom will help mitigate that. You cannot take cameras out of the courtroom. Yesterday, Judge in Idaho ruled on a second motion to intervene and defendant's motion to remove media cameras from the courtroom. The judge renamed this I think the judge renamed this. Let me pull up my notes real quick, because it was interesting the way the judge clarified media cameras in the courtroom to me. Because I really think that the defense just said cameras in the courtroom, but we're going to pull that up in just a second. I'm going to go to this order first, and then we will go there. Judge really gave the media the finger. Yes. Judge was like, we're done. We're done. So Judge has granted the defendant's motion to remove media cameras from the courtroom and denied the second motion to intervene. We are going to go through all of this 9-page order from the judge that was handed down yesterday and talk about what that means going forward. All right. This order addresses the motion to remove cameras from the courtroom, and I think that's what the motion was called. I really don't think that the defense called it the media motion, but I'm going to pull that up on the side while we're going through this. Motion to remove cameras from the courtroom filed by defendant on August 24th. On September 6th, the state responded to Kohberger's motion requesting the court prohibit cameras in the courtroom, both still cameras and video cameras at a minimum during trial and during any other court proceedings at which victims might be called to testify. I always thought the languaging of the state was odd because all 4 victims in this homicide case are deceased, though there are sensitive witnesses and victims' family members. But unless there is something we don't know, there was no attempted murder charged here. There was no evidence that somebody else was attacked and survived that would then be a victim. I don't think any of the victims will be called to testify. I think sensitive witnesses and victims' families, but that is me being picky. But the state and the defense both agreed that cameras should be out of this courtroom. On August 30th, a coalition of 14 media outlets, and then it lists them, that will be collectively referred to as the Associated Press. The AP is like, no, they're the media coalition. Why the court didn't choose to call them the media coalition is a surprise to me. The media coalition filed a second motion to intervene in the case. On September 8th, the Associated Press filed an opposition to motion to remove cameras from the courtroom. The press argues that, quote, continuing to allow audiovisual coverage of the proceedings is the only way to ensure that the many community members affected by these crimes throughout the University of Idaho, Moscow, state of Idaho, and the cities in which the victims' family members reside have an opportunity to see and hear the proceedings for themselves. For reasons stated below, the court grants Kohberger's motion to remove cameras from the courtroom as it pertains to cameras, both still and video, operated by the media. However, the court will continue to allow the proceedings to be videoed by a court-operated camera system. This will help to alleviate the concerns raised by both the defense and the state, but at the same time will ensure the public still has access to see the proceedings for themselves if they cannot attend hearings in person. I have never seen the court choose to do this. I have seen the court appoint one pool camera. It's often court TV. Appoint one pool camera and say, these pool cameras are allowed to set up for these angles. They can't zoom in. They can't zoom out. We saw a very strict decorum and media order in the Gwyneth Paltrow trial. We've seen courts take control of the cameras through orders. Judge never issued an order. He gave warnings, like stop zooming in, but he didn't issue an order to them. So the media kept pushing the boundaries. And I kept watching these hearings with y'all saying, he is going to kick these cameras out of the courtroom because they persistently continue to zoom in on Bryan Kohberger's face, not focusing on the person who's talking, not showing the judge when he's talking. They continued to fuck around in violation of the court's warning. It was never a court order, but I think that if the media wants to keep their cameras in the courtroom, they need to be mindful. And the court was like, we're going to do it. We're going to do it. And they're going to stream it on the court YouTube channel. Now, the court YouTube channel right now doesn't seem to be up. I've tried to access it, but they're going to stream it from the court to the court's YouTube channel. I am thankful that the court did not take cameras away entirely. The court said, I am taking control of the cameras. That might mean that during trial, we will see some bits where we have audio only and not audio and video. That makes sense. We might see some portions where we don't see the whole courtroom, but it is going to be on the court to manage those cameras, turn them off and on when they want to. And there is no next hearing on trial. So no next hearing on calendar. So we don't know when we will see this in play. But now the media is going to have to do things the way that quite a lot of YouTube channels have done it. And they're all going to have to grab it from the same YouTube channel. So that's what's going to happen. We are going to have this streamed directly to YouTube from the court. And maybe this is how the courts will do things. I'm disappointed a little bit that the court didn't issue a stronger order and let the cameras figure it out, because I do find that court TV's cameras in court generally do a very good job, and they audio mix it coming out. There is a little bit more user friendliness to it, but I'm optimistic this will go well. We'll see. There's no other option. So if it doesn't go well, everyone's going to be in the same boat. But I still think because there's an unknown aspect here with the court operating its own cameras, that we will still see the media trying to push into this courtroom so that there are representatives from all the different media outlets in there with eyes on, which could limit the amount of room in court for the audience, the individuals, the local observers of court. So we'll see. I think that this was a long time coming. I just wish he had tried an order before this, but I'm optimistic. He has not yeeted cameras completely. He's cut the media out of it and said the court is going to be focused. The court is going to do this. And the fact that Idaho's willing to invest in doing that and figure out how to do cameras in the court is interesting. And it will end the litigation about media in the courtroom. So let's continue on. On November 13th, I can't believe it's been a year. On November 13th, 4 University of Idaho students, Kaylee, Madison, Xana, and Ethan, were found deceased in their off-campus home in Moscow, Idaho. The cause of death for each was ruled a homicide. As news of the tragedy broke, media outlets from around the country descended upon Moscow. As law enforcement investigated, news stations, newspapers, and social media were flooded with stories and speculation about the homicides. Yes. On December 30th, Kohberger was arrested and charged with 4 counts in the murder in the 4 counts of murder in the first degree, 1 count of burglary. Media outlets again descended upon Moscow, and the news coverage quickly focused on Kohberger. It did. Given the high-profile nature of the case and the concerns surrounding Kohberger's fundamental right to a fair trial by an impartial jury, the parties stipulated to entry of a non-dissemination order. Some of the parties. On May 1st, a coalition of 20 media outlets, which encompassed the 14 media outlets now at issue, filed a motion to intervene and a motion to vacate the amended non-dissemination order. At a scheduling conference conducted on May 22nd, the court asked the parties and the AP to brief the issue of whether cameras should continue to be allowed in the courtroom during proceedings in this case. Oral argument on the issue was heard on June 9th. The state was represented by the DAs, defendant was represented by the defense attorneys, the press was represented by Wendy Olson and Corey Carone. At the time, both the defense and prosecution were opposed to cameras in the courtroom, especially at trial. No. I hate all of this for all of us. Nevertheless, the court reserved its ruling on the issue and has continued to allow cameras operated by the media at all public hearings. And it seems maybe multiple cameras, maybe one. It's hard to tell sometimes. As the case has progressed, media coverage, both legitimate media outlets and journalists, and sorry, I took issue and my brain is buffering. As the case has progressed, media coverage, both by legitimate media outlets and journalists and by individuals on social media platforms, continues to be significant nationwide. Who are you to decide what's... Judge, can we have a chat? Because some of these legitimate media outlets fuck all the way around. Come on now. But okay. I also realize that there are some individuals on social media that also fuck all the way around. Like, I get that. I just don't. I take issue with determining what is legitimate. Lindsay said, Emily, illegitimate D. Baker ESQ. Yes. Hello, chat. Apparently we are an illegitimate media outlet. Mwahahaha. It reminds me of the movie Pirate Radio. Have I built the movie Pirate Radio into a career? Less Christian Slater, but all of the snark. All right. On August 24th, the defense filed a motion to remove cameras from the courtroom. August 30th, the press filed a motion to intervene. September 8th. On September 8th, filed in opposition to Kohberger's motion. On September 6th, the state filed a response to Kohberger's motion, arguing that cameras should at least be banned during hearings, including trial, where vulnerable witnesses and or victims are called to testify. On September 13th, at a hearing on Kohberger's motion was held, the state was represented by the attorneys, the defense was represented by the defense, the Associated Press was represented by Wendy Olson. Issues presented. Oh, was it Pump Up the Volume? Was that the name of the movie? Thank you, chat. Pump Up the Volume being the name of the movie, Pirate Radio being the radio station. I think I always wanted to be a broadcaster, and I just didn't know that that's what I really wanted to do. I think I just didn't realize. The illegitimate media has issues with the legitimate camera operator. That's a very good point. The first issue presented before this court is whether the AP has the right to intervene in the case to challenge Kohberger's motion. Probably not. For the reasons set forth below and articulated on the record at the hearing on September 13th, the court holds that the press does not have standing to intervene in the case in this juncture. Right. Because I don't. Nevertheless, the court will allow the press to participate as an interested media coalition. The next issue is whether the court should exercise its discretion and remove cameras from the courtroom to protect Kohberger's right to a fair trial and protect vulnerable witnesses and victims who may be called to testify at trial and other hearings. It won't prevent people from flooding the courthouse to be there to see. For the reasons stated below, the court will prohibit still, video, and audio coverage by journalists and the public. However, a court-operated video and audio system will be used to record and stream the proceedings, allowing the media and the public access to view and hear for themselves what is taking place in the courtroom. This will alleviate some of the concerns raised by the parties while addressing the media's concern without removing cameras from the courtroom. Short of doing the orders that I suggested, I think this is the fairest compromise we're going to see from this court. The court took absolute control of the cameras. The court is not going to rely on the media and telling them not to zoom in. They obviously didn't listen. Even though it wasn't a court order, they still didn't listen. And when the court is strongly advising something, maybe listen. I don't understand why they weren't. I still don't understand why they weren't. Was it the camera operator, or was it somebody in the camera operator's ear being like, could you go ahead and zoom in on that defendant right there? Was it trying not to miss the moment? I don't know what it was. But court coverage and what might make headlines sometimes are two different things. Analysis. There is no widespread right of the press or anyone else to routinely intervene in Idaho's criminal proceedings. The court was like, we're interested. And the court's like, or the media was saying, we're interested. And the court's like, we don't care. Like, you don't have any standing here. You're not a litigant. Instead, the Idaho Supreme Court has endorsed a limited right applicable when a trial court's responsibility to balance the Sixth Amendment right of the accused and the First Amendment interest of the media becomes an issue. And the court could have said, well, media, you're welcome to come into the courtroom, but there's no recording. I don't like that, because then you're relying on whoever the reporter is in court, and they have varying levels of experience with court proceedings. Some I trust more than others, but you have journalists and reporters, some who have experience as attorneys, some who don't, who have different perspective on what's a headline or what's not a headline, or what's a big deal that's what's not a big deal than I might or you might. And they are filtering their retelling of what happened in court through their own lens. There are very few journalists, it seems, left that are gifted at literally saying, this is what happened. So when the cameras are out of the courtroom, you are left with journalists interpreting the proceedings in their own way. Because again, very, very few can say, this is what happened in court today, and just list it. The ones who do are gold. And there are a few of them who are very gifted in that way. But it is a few. It is the exception, not the rule. And that is sad to me. I really miss when journalism was like, this thing happened. The end. So at least the court providing the video means there is still video and we are not filtered through somebody else's lens. And I appreciate that is the compromise. Maybe the court will have a microphone and not a potato. We'll see. Let's see. I saw somebody say, can you imagine Depp v. Heard without cameras? I can't. Steve in the chat said, imagine Depp v. Heard without cameras. I can't. Because even with good fact-based journalists reporting in court, there were still things that happened in court that weren't ever reported on that we might not have seen. Journalists don't always report on the tone of the judge's voice, but we all also interpret tone differently. Like, we could see Judge A getting frustrated, but was that widely reported? It's hard. Patty said they want to give color commentary. And while I appreciate color commentary and feel like it's very much a lot of what I do here, I also want you to be able to see the source material so that you know what the source material is. And then we can yell about the attorneys not being able to turn on their mic. Depp v. Heard without cameras would have the world thinking Amber won, even though Depp clearly did. They might have misreported the outcome. Very few outlets didn't watch and got the facts wrong. There were a few outlets. Sorry, that says a few outlets. There were a few outlets that reported things that were wild, which is why cameras were so needed. Casey Catt said when Jules was sitting in court every day watching the Maya trial, she asked the camera operator from Court TV why the camera was always on Maya. She said she had been told by her boss. And that is a huge issue because the camera operators ultimately won't be hired back for the job if they're not doing what whoever the segment producer is telling them. But if the producers are telling them to do things to get a gotcha moment, I don't think court coverage should be gotcha moments. I don't know what you think. Sometimes there's moments that happen and you're just like, oh shit, that moment happened. Spicy Draco. Morgan Tremaine was just like, the same could be said about you. That's a moment you don't know that's going to happen that gets very spicy in court and you're all like, oh, that just happened. But I don't think you should try to force those types of moments. It's not reality television. Just document what's happening. That is it. Document what's happening. Court has enough drama without using dramatic camera swings to try to find it. Zoom out, show us what's happening. That's it. Just show people what is happening in court. They'll still be interested in the story. You don't have to sensationalize court. Court is already people's worst day. Court is already bad shit has happened. And now it's in court. There's no need to add extra drama. There will be moments. But you don't need to try to get them. 100% staring at the defendant with the camera is not helpful. Focus on who's talking. Agreed. And half the time, show me the judge. I want to see which side the judge is leaning towards. I want to see the judge's face. I want to see how the lawyer's arguments are landing. It reminds me of how much I used to yell about camera operators during the Olympics not understanding water polo. Because they would focus on something and I'm like, the ball's not even there. Learn the game or just show us the whole pool. Damn it. You need camera operators that understand what's going on. And I think in court, getting the entire courtroom is more important. But let us continue. Sorry for the tangent. We're back now. We've recovered from Emily's tangent. What were we saying? First Amendment right. The court goes on to say there is no First Amendment or other constitutional right to record either by audio or visual transmission any court proceeding in Idaho. No, you're allowed to be there. That's it. Because the Press Coalition does not have a constitutional right at stake when it comes to cameras in the courtroom, intervention is not appropriate. Thus, the second motion to intervene is denied. However, the court will treat the press like amicus curiae. Amicus curiae is, quote, someone who is not a party to a lawsuit, but who petitions the court or is requested by the court to file a brief in an action because they have a strong interest in the subject matter, or outcome. Cameras in the courtroom. In Idaho, the decision to limit, restrict, or prohibit audiovisual coverage of any proceeding is left to the discretion of the judge. Quote, the presiding judge maintains the right to limit audiovisual coverage of any public hearing when the interests of the administration of justice requires. Authorization may be revoked at any time without prior notice when in the discretion of the court it appears that audiovisual coverage is interfering in any way with the proper administration of justice. It goes on to say, few, if any, interests under the Constitution are more fundamental than a right to fair trial by impartial jurors. The U.S. Supreme Court has recognized a defendant's right to a trial by an impartial jury free from outside influences in the face of massive, pervasive, and prejudicial publicity. While acknowledging that a responsible press has always been regarded as a handmaiden of effective judicial administration, especially in the criminal field, well, let's see. This is oddly written. The court chastised the trial judge for not taking strong measures to ensure Shepard's right to a fair trial. This is going back to the Shepard case, Shepard v. Maxwell, that we talked about in another podcast episode about the extreme press in that case. While pretrial publicity, even pervasive adverse publicity, does not inevitably lead to an unfair trial, the capacity of the jury eventually impaneled to decide the case fairly is influenced by the tone and extent of the publicity. I mean, having camera operators screaming in the face of jurors like paparazzi is different than having unmanned cameras set in multiple positions in the courtroom. For sure, those are different things. While only the occasional case presents a danger of prejudice from pretrial publicity, and that's from the Gentile case, this case is recognized by the Idaho Supreme Court, has drawn widespread publicity, garnering worldwide media attention and much speculation. Therefore, pretrial publicity does present a real danger of prejudice. And then they go on to talk about the high-profile nature of this case. As demonstrated by some of the examples presented in the defense's motion to remove cameras from the courtroom, media cameras, both still and video, have continued to zoom in on Kohberger despite the court's order. It wasn't really an order, it was an admonishment that images should capture the courtroom in its entirety. He needed to write a formal order or modify the decorum order. But yeah, the media fucked around and found out, and they're like, none of y'all are going to get cameras. I wonder how much money it will save them, though. How much money it will save them from having to have media trucks there. They're still going to have media trucks there, though, because they're still going to be reporting live from outside the courthouse, as if being outside the courthouse helps. It does in some limited circumstances. Talking to people who are watching trial. Hey, you watched trial today. It's snowing here today. But I wonder if it will save them money. All right. So, despite the court's order, the court believes they made an order. Despite the court's order that images should capture the courtroom in its entirety, at least some of the images are of Kohberger entering and exiting the courtroom. This is in direct violation of the court's previous directives not to film or take photographs until the court is on the record, and immediately stop recording and taking photographs when the hearing concludes. Fair. It is the intense focus on Kohberger and his every move, along with adverse headlines and news articles, that leads the court to conclude that continued photograph and video coverage inside the courtroom by the media should no longer be permitted. Y'all fucked around and found out. So no, you can't take pictures. No, you can't. I mean, maybe they'll still allow for court sketch artists. But no, you can't. You didn't. The court gave you rules and you didn't respect the rules. This should help ensure Kohberger's right to a fair trial by an impartial jury and achieve a proper administration of justice. Additionally, defense counsel has raised continued concerns with video footage and photographs capturing private documents on counsel table. This is again in violation of the court's directives. No one should ever be focusing on what's on counsel table, whether you're in the courtroom or not in the courtroom. It's completely improper to do so. And the reporters in the courtroom don't report on what they saw on counsel table. The reporters in the courtroom don't normally take photos of that or zoom in. It was the cameras catching it and then people on the internet zooming in. The state has also raised issues of vulnerable victims and witnesses being filmed during testimony. At this juncture, the court has no confidence that directives to stop photographing or videoing during such testimony would be adhered to. That's fair. They did it very well in the Darrell Brooks case. They did a very good job. To be clear, the court is not accusing all journalists and media outlets of violating the court's orders. However, a court-operated video system will give the court greater control over what is being videotaped. The law nerds would like to see more of the bailiff, Your Honor. If we get a vote, the law nerds would like to see more of your bailiff. We also want to see more of the judge in Utah. The judge in Utah asks great questions. We would like to see more of Judge when Judge is talking. We would like to see it. However, a court-operated video system will give the court greater control over what is being videoed, will lessen the burden on bailiffs, and will help alleviate counsel's concerns. Conclusion, as set forth above, coverage of the proceedings in this case will be exclusively done by the court. Media and the public are not allowed to video, photograph, audio record, or otherwise transmit during the proceedings. Future public hearings in this case will be video recorded, and that live video stream will be available for the public and media to view at the court's YouTube channel. This series of letters did not work for me yesterday. This link is not an actual link, but we will find it. It seems that it's at Judge Court or something like that, but we will find it. So, to summarize real quick, the court told the media to keep focusing on who was speaking in the entire courtroom in Idaho. The media continued to focus on Bryan Kohberger. The media recorded him coming in and out of the courtroom after being told to only record when the court is on the record. And because of all of that, the court has yeeted media cameras from the courtroom, but is going to allow live streaming of the proceedings through court-operated audio and video. So the court will be streaming on their own website, on their own YouTube channel. So everyone will have access to their YouTube channel to watch these proceedings go forward. I think the court felt that this was their only compromise to just take control of the cameras. I'm optimistic that it will go well. I don't know how the court will manage this. I know that when outlets like Court TV have their camera operators in court, they have somebody in the media truck switching camera angles. I don't know how that will work, or if they will just do like Zoom court, like a three camera angle at all time. I don't know. We will find out and we will see. But I am very optimistic that this court will allow cameras to remain in the courtroom now that they have chosen to take control of the cameras. I was very nervous that Judge was going to completely eliminate cameras from this case, seeing that the prosecution and defense both asked for it. So he gave the media a warning. They didn't listen, and now their cameras are out, and the court is democratizing access for everybody. It's like, nope, we're going to just put it on YouTube. And maybe that's the way it needs to be from here on out. Hey, courts, if you would like help putting cameras in your courtroom, I could tell you what angles are most helpful for the viewing public, and we can get some cameras set up, and we can just, bippity boppity trial. Because I think the public has an interest in seeing and hearing what's happening in court. I don't think the everyone needs to know how many pores are on Bryan Kohberger's face, right? So with all of that, it is time. It is time to move forward and go to South Carolina. John Judge's YouTube channel. We'll link it below. Judge John Judge. Thank you, Miguelina. We'll link the Judge's YouTube channel below so we have it. We got it. EDB Court Camera LLC. We can help. I'm here to help. Does the court get money from YouTube views? Probably not. I imagine they would just not monetize it. I don't monetize a lot of my court coverage either. You don't have to turn on ads. Could YouTube, in theory, run ads against a channel that's not monetized? Yes. I don't know. I could ask this. Miguelina, make a note. Let's ask. We'll ask the people we know. I wonder if you could opt out from that for a news entity or a public office. That would be interesting. So let us zoom to South Carolina, and then we will get to Q&A. Rob, I see you in the chat. Good to see you. Good to see everybody. You guys pack up. Let's go. It's time. It's time. All right, we are doing a full hearing today for the Murdaugh plea that was a shock heard round the interwebs. However, I was out of commission and under anesthesia on Friday when this went down, so I didn't know it happened until later. But we are headed to South Carolina today. While you might see that this is a 5-hour hearing, large chunks of this hearing are not actually active. It seems that the prosecution and the defense were hammering out some sort of a plea deal while they were in court. This is not unusual that it goes down to the last minute. I am surprised that the state allowed a plea deal. It seemed to me that the state wanted to utilize the 3 financial crimes above a certain amount to get an additional life sentence against Murdaugh. That's not what happened. They are allowing a plea. We will see how many years they're recommending, but the sentencing will be on Tuesday next week on the 28th and the 27th or 28th, and I will be covering that. So we are going to check out Murdaugh's guilty plea and everything that happened in court leading up to that. He pled on all of the financial crimes in South Carolina. He's pled on all of the financial crimes facing him at this point federally. I don't know if he pled to the tax crimes. I imagine the tax crimes in the state are included in the financial crimes. We will see if this includes, and I don't think that it does, the side of the road incident. So we're not all the way done with Murdaugh, but we're more than mostly done with Murdaugh. And I am very surprised. I am very surprised that they have agreed to plea this case that was supposed to start trial next week. Very surprised. All right. Let us continue on. Did I freeze? That was weird. All right. We got Jim Griffin in court with Poot and Creighton having a chitty chat. That said, though, if this case is almost done, do we get to talk to Creighton? I need to ask Creighton if he would come on and we could have a chat. That would be very nice. It's funny to me, Long Crime keeps moving where their logo is, and I wonder if they do it to make it easier with us. All right, hold on. What have I done? I have done something odd. I don't want to do that. I don't know. Sometimes I feel like they move their logo so that we can't move our screens, but I want to make my screen a little bit bigger. And I'm going to try to do that right now. So let us zoom till the court is on the record here. I'm not going to speed up. I'm going to zoom. We're going to zoom. I don't know what is happening here, but let us scrub through until the court comes on the bench, or at least Murdaugh comes out of lockup, which is going to take a minute. All right. Murdaugh is coming out, so that is where we're going to start. And then when the court takes the bench, I will slow this down to real time. But until then, I'm going to speed this up so we can zoom. I'm going to adjust my feed. If this looks weird, it's because it's at 2x speed. So it's Murdaugh is coming out into court. We'll get Judge Newman on the bench in just a minute. I'm going to try to rearrange some of my stuff here to make me a little bit larger in this bottom box. So let's see if we can do that. I don't know what Murdaugh's doing, but this is not going to work while I'm doing this, is it? Let's see if I do it that. No, that makes me smaller. I need me to be bigger. Embiggen the Emily. Nope, that's smaller. Let's see. That's a little bit better. Am I playing with my StreamYard layout while I'm live? Yes, I am. Do I love that we can do that? Yes, I do. I like that better. Chat, what do you think? We can see the things. We can see court. I would make court bigger. I don't think I can make court much bigger. We lose the lower third just a little bit. The court's coming onto the record now, so I'm going to slow this back down so we can
Good morning.
Hear from Judge Newman. User error. Damn it. Sorry, chat. I was trying to slow the talking speed down, and I completely messed it up. Oh, Lordy. Emily, you go to Vegas for like a week, and then everything's crazy. Where is he going? Did we miss the whole hearing? Yes. Goodness. Trying to not waste everybody's time has resulted in me wasting everybody's time. Sorry, y'all. We're going to zoom the old way. All right. Got this. Gained as much as I can.
Thank you. You may be seated.
Good morning.
I can hear Judge Newman loud and clear.
All right, we're on the record. State v. Alex Murdaugh.
Mr.
Welcome
Murdaugh.
everyone here to Beaufort County.
Thank you.
There are some matters I believe that
Yeah, a bunch of them.
that the court will need to take up with counsel. It'll take some time. Don't know exactly how long. So we're going to immediately recess and come back on the record at that time.
No.
Anything from the state or the defense?
Nothing from the state, Your Honor.
Nothing from the defense, Your Honor.
All right. So the court will be in recess for a period of time. Mr. Murdaugh, how you doing?
I see Judge Newman saying hello to Alec Murdaugh. He's talking to the judge. Mr. Metters is there. The whole prosecution team is there. And the court's like, I need to talk to the lawyers. We are taking a recess. So I'm just going to wait until Murdaugh goes all the way back. They probably gave a heads up that they were discussing a plea deal. But until Murdaugh gets taken to the back, I'm just going to leave the court feed up. I miss live court so bad. I do. So we'll see what happens. I'm going to get to some questions while we're waiting for Murdaugh to walk back, because I always love seeing the interactions in court. Aaron says, fighting a stinky cold. Yeah, it's that time of year, Aaron. Hang in there. Melissa said Murdaugh has lost more weight. In his jail calls, he has been indicating that A, he is no longer on pills. B, he is not drinking. And C, he is working out a lot in custody. So yes, from the time that he was arrested after the murders to now, he looks like an entirely different person. That is not uncommon in my experience with cases, that the defendants, depending on how long between arrest and trial, can look dramatically different from their booking photos, sometimes to the point where we, when people are booked, they're fingerprinted, where we compare their fingerprints to prove to the jury it's the same person, because they do look so different, with hairs being cut or beards being shaved or weight being lost or weight being gained, which is the rarer case in custody. Moo Boy Moo said, I don't understand why they zoom in on Bryan Kohberger. He's not doing anything. Tell them to focus on the action and who's talking. If the defendants lashes out or something, then focus on them. I agree with you. And if you cover the whole courtroom, then you would see what happens. So no, you should just cover the whole courtroom and then you won't miss anything. I agree with you. Have a wonderful Thanksgiving, all my law nerd friends. Kersey Nursey says, straight facts don't get clicks. I think we as a public can change that and just be like, ugh, I'm sick of the clickbait. Like, I'm tired of it. After seeing how much court TV focused on Maya, a minor, I agree with the court control of the cameras. Thank you, Lorraine, for that. Let's see. Jacob said the courtroom was upgraded for remote hearings due to the pandemic. There are 4 cameras already in the courtroom for Zoom meetings, 1 on defense, 1 on DA, 1 on the witness box, and 1 on the judge. Jacob, that is super helpful information and it's perfect. Why not? Why not just show those in 4 boxes and let the cameras roll if you have them? I'm interested to see how that goes. It's interesting to me that they're leaving Murdaugh in the courtroom while the attorneys are meeting with the judge. I'm going to throw this to a 2x playback speed, because normally they would take him back out of the open courtroom into lockup if the attorneys are meeting outside the courtroom or in chambers. Steven said the operators are at fault. He said, fuck around, find out. He did say that, and he did. Hold on. While we're doing this part, let me just do this. Nope, that. Happy Thanksgiving to the American Law Nerds. Thank you so much. Honey 2800 said, you and Melanie Little need to do a show together. She's an ex-lawyer and a DMB fan. We love our DMB friends. We also love our escaped recovering attorney friends. I mean, we still engage the lawyer brain, but I don't have all the trauma that I used to. My sleep YouTube is Law and Lumber or Runkle. Jules has spoken. Let's see. Creighton. Wait, Creighton, where are you going? I want to see Creighton and Poot talk more. This is why I want the whole courtroom. So Murdaugh and Jim are sitting down there at counsel table, and Creighton and Poot just walked off to go talk about something. Can we zoom out and see the whole courtroom? Thank you. Can courts not just recruit their own camera crew? Not really. They don't have any mechanism to hire for that or to pay them. Like, it's not, the court's not in the function of hiring camera crews and providing access to the public that way. They normally allow one media outlet to do the pool of cameras. And then after they allow that media outlet to do the pool of cameras, they have rules and regulations for how to do it. It's rare that the court's like, fine, I'll run the cameras then. I'm the captain now. It's strange. All right, let me zoom to the best of my ability. We're at 39:52, and we're going to wait until Murdaugh comes back into court. As I scrub through, we're now at an hour and 29, and there are a bunch of attorneys just milling about in the courtroom. So this is an hour later, and the attorneys are still milling about. Murdaugh just sitting smiling. I know, it's wild. So what, if any, is it fair to say Murdaugh made the deal out of fear? I think he's always trying to benefit himself. Murdaugh knew he was going to lose this trial when he went to trial. I don't think he was worried about that. He already admitted everything in the murder trial. So I think it's a matter of just having it be done, maybe. So we'll see. All righty. This is a delightful spinny wheel. Thank you, spinny wheel. Let's see. We've got a clot of lawyers. Look at Metters. Metters sitting and chatting with Poot and Jim is always super, super interesting. So let's see. More lawyers chatting. We are now at 2 hours and 29 minutes. So this has been 2 hours since the court took a break. We got Creighton Waters doing work. Metters chatting with Poot in court. I want to know what they're chatting. What are y'all talking about? Like, the lawyers just milling around this courtroom. They're trying to hammer out a plea deal. This is 2 hours after the court took a break that these attorneys are still milling around the courtroom. So I think they are working on hammering out what this deal looks like and what's going to be said when the court comes back on the bench. So they are just about to bring Murdaugh back out. We are now 3 hours after the court took a break. So they are probably done hammering it out. Murdaugh's going to be coming back out, and then the court will go back onto the record. When the court goes back onto the record, we will slow this down to real time. They're talking about golf and food. Somebody said they're talking about playing football. They might be talking about football. They absolutely might be talking about football. But it's 3 hours that these attorneys have been working on something. So where is the deal being hammered out? In the courtroom. They were all walking around in the courtroom talking to each other. Erica said, Emily, hair up is adorable. Have a happy Thanksgiving. I miss my big messy buns, but I cut my hair. I actually like my hair cut very much. I like the kind of collarbone length haircut, but it makes it harder to do the big messy bun. I do miss my top of head messy bun. We are ready to bring the judge. Steve said, I thought it wise Judge Newman recused himself. I think it makes sense that Judge Newman recused himself on the motion for new trial with regard to the murder trial, dealing with the clerk of court. I think that it will, because part of the standard there is appearance of impropriety, and I think the appearance could be bad.
Thank you, maybe seated.
I didn't fuck it up that time. I've got my Law and Art sweatshirt on. You guys, I'm ready to go. To
Waters.
Good afternoon, Your Honor.
my embroidered one.
We're obviously here in the state grand jury case against Richard Alec Murdaugh. He is present and represented by his counsel, Dick Arfutlian and Jim.
I will just say, because his name is Richard Alexander Murdaugh, I do not consider it name calling if he is referred to as Dick Murdaugh. Dick technically is his first name because I don't know why Richard gets shortened to Dick, but it does. So I am just saying his name, you're not really calling him out of his name if his name is Dick Murdaugh. I always think it's funny that his name is Richard Alexander Murdaugh, but he looks thrilled.
Griffin, as Your Honor is aware, we currently have trials scheduled to begin a week from Monday on at least one aspect of the multiple financial crimes that have been investigated and indicted by the state grand jury against Mr. Murdaugh for his abuse of his law license to steal money from clients. It is my understanding that Mr. Murdaugh here today intends to plead guilty pursuant to a plea agreement, which I will detail here in a moment.
Absolutely shocking.
And that this will ultimately, if this proceeding goes through, will resolve those financial crimes that are alleged against Mr. Murdaugh.
Absolutely shocking to me.
Your Honor, pursuant to that plea agreement, I believe you have a copy up at the bench. Is that correct, Your Honor?
So they would have written this up.
Pursuant to that plea agreement, Your Honor, and I'll detail the...
This is the best audio we've had in a while. It does not sound like it's on a potato, but they would have hammered out this plea agreement, it seems, in those 3 hours that they were in court chatting. Wild to me.
Plea agreement and the various provisions of it as we do this particular...
Is all that correct thus far, Mr. Harpootlian?
Yes, sir, Your Honor, it is.
All right. Go ahead, please.
And Your Honor, I would ask if the defendant could be sworn as we begin this proceeding. And obviously, I think because it'd be fairly lengthy, I would request that they be allowed to sit during the state's presentation.
Oh, you're doing a full, like, factual basis presentation, and he is going to have to admit on the record to each thing. They don't always do that. This is bananas.
All right, Mr. Murdaugh, if you'll...
Absolutely. I can't believe they're playing. I still can't believe we're watching this.
The whole truth and nothing but the truth, so be God.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you. You may proceed.
Thank you, Your Honor. We have, in fact, signed a plea agreement here with the defense here today. It has been executed by me for the state, as well as Mr. Harpootlian and Mr. Murdaugh himself. And you should have a number of sentencing sheets that are part of this plea. What we've endeavored to do with this plea is to bring some finality to this matter, but to also ensure that there's an appropriate sentence, a lengthy sentence that ensures that Mr. Murdaugh will remain in state prison for a very long time. Your Honor, there are a lot of charges, and so I'm going to first of all go through and detail the charges from the various indictments to which he will be pleading.
I saw a question from Beth M in the chat that I wanted to make sure I answered real quick. Is Murdaugh on the wrong side of court? I actually forget that I cover up my face when I do this. Murdaugh is not on the wrong side of court. This is a different courtroom layout. The jury box is going to be closer to Creighton Waters. You can see that there's benches on the other side. It's interesting in the courtroom that you've got a curved bench. So behind where Murdaugh is sitting is curved, and then there's still benches for people to sit. It's an interesting courtroom layout, but the jury box is going to be closer to where Creighton Waters is. So on the on this courtroom, it's flipped where they sit versus from what we saw in his trial in Colton County. Passenger shaming with the very speedy response. He's just on the wrong side of the law, but he is not on the wrong side of the courtroom.
And again, to put this plea together, we ensured that there was at least one, and sometimes more than one, representative charge for each victim that was victimized by Mr. Murdaugh in the course of his legal practice. The first indictment is 2021 GS 4727, and pursuant to this plea agreement, Mr. Murdaugh will be pleading to count 2, which is money laundering, value $100,000 or more, and that will be a negotiated sentence of 20 years. The second count to which he will be pleading is in 2021 GS 4728. This indictment was venued in Bamberg County and dealt with the crimes committed, first of all, in the diversion of the fees in the case that he shared with Chris Wilson from the firm, as well as ultimately not paying back, ultimately convincing Chris Wilson to cover $192,000 of those fees. Your Honor, he will be pleading in this for that indictment, count 1, for false pretenses, $10,000 or more, for a sentence of 10 years, as well as count 7, which is false pretenses, $10,000 or more, for another 10 years. The third indictment is 2021 GS 4729. This is the crime that is venued in Allendale County. The victim in this case was Dion Martin, and Mr. Murdaugh has agreed to plead guilty to count 1, breach of trust with fraudulent intent, $10,000 or more, for a negotiated sentence of 10 years. The next one is 2021 GS 4730. This is venued here in Beaufort County, and this is the indictment that the state was prepared to try a week from Monday. This is the case involving the Satterfield matter, and he has agreed to plead to count 4, which is 2021 GS 4730, count 4 for 10 years. 2021 GS 4730, count 5 for 20 years, and 2021 GS 4730, count 8 for 20 years. Those latter 2 were money laundering. Those are 20-year offenses that are at 85% time that must be served.
That's helpful to know. Not all state cases are at 85% time. So he was making clear that the money laundering counts, and I am keeping a very rough tally. I'm going to go through this so that on Tuesday I can give a full, actual, succinct breakdown of what these pleas are, because he's already pled to 1, 2, 3 counts of money laundering for 20 years. If they stack those, that's going to be 60 years at 85%. Some state cases are as little as like 30% served. Some are 50%. So the fact that he is making clear that these are at 85% is very helpful. I imagine that the murder case, well, he's serving life plus life on the murder case, so there's no real time on that. But if there were, I imagine it would be 85% as well. So it's helpful that he noticed that. So we're going to go through the rest of these, and he is banging through. Once we're done with this hearing, I'm going to do a little bit more work to see what outstanding charges he has. So we will see. Will I be streaming the sentencing live? Yes, next Tuesday we will be covering that entire court day live. If they take a 4-hour break in the middle, I don't know what we're gonna play Suika together or something.
Your Honor, the next indictment to which you'll be pleading is 2021 GS 4731. This is where the victim was Manuel Santos Cristiani, and he will be pleading to breach of trust in count 1, and the negotiated sentence is 10 years. The next indictment, 2021 GS 4732. This is venued in Hampton County, and the victim was Randy Drawdy. And in that particular matter, he will be pleading to breach of trust, $2,000 to $10,000, and the negotiated sentence is 5 years. The next indictment is 2021 GS 4733, and this matter involved the estate of Blondell Gary and venued in Hampton County. In that particular case, he will be pleading guilty to count 2 for money laundering, value $100,000 or more. The negotiated sentence will be 20 years. The next indictment is 2021 GS 47.
Remember, every single victim that he is talking about are victims of theft when they were clients of Murdaugh, or their estates are victims of theft as clients of Murdaugh. So we are doing, I mean, he is right now at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 different victims of theft. And we're going to keep going, which the sentencing, I imagine, will be long, because there will be victims or survivors of victims that will have things to say.
34. This is venued in Hampton County, and the victim was Chris Anderson, and he will be pleading to count 2, which is money laundering $100,000 or more, with a negotiated sentence of 20 years. The next one is 2021 GS 4735. This is venued in Beaufort County, and the victim is Jordan Jinks. He will be pleading to forgery, 2021 GS 4735, count 5, for a negotiated sentence of 10 years. The next one is 2021 GS 4736. This is venued in Hampton County, The victim is Johnny Bush, and he will be pleading to count 2, which is computer crime, value more than $10,000 for a negotiated sentence of 5 years. The next one is 2021 GS 4737. He will be pleading to count 1 in that one. That is venued in Hampton County, and the victim was Jamie and Risher, and he will be pleading to a negotiated sentence of 10 years. The next one is 2021 GS 4738. This is venued in Colleton County, and the victim was the estate of Sandra Taylor. He will be pleading in that matter to 2021 GS 4738, count 2 for money laundering. That's an 85% offense, and he will be pleading to a 7-year sentence on that particular crime that will be consecutive to count 5 of 2021 GS 30. The next one is 2022 GS 47.
Consecutive means after. So he's noted that this 7-year case is consecutive to the first 20-year case, which means a lot of these are going to be served concurrent. So if you're trying to add up the amount of years, we're not going to get there because a lot of them will be concurrent, but that 7 years is consecutive, and those are 85% crimes on the consecutive.
01. This is venued in Hampton County. The victim was Natasha Thomas, and he will be pleading to breach of trust in count 1 to a negotiated sentence of 10 years. The next one is 2022 GS 4702. In this instance, the victim was Hakeem Pinckney and the heirs of Hakeem Pinckney. That is venued in Hampton County. He will be pleading to count 1, breach of trust, for a negotiated sentence of 10 years. The next one is 2022 GS 4703. This is venued in Allendale County, and the victim was Arthur Badger. He will be pleading to count 1, breach of trust, for a negotiated sentence of 10 years. Additionally, 2022 GS 4710. This is venued in Colleton County. This actually had a criminal conspiracy and a drug offense in it. He will be pleading to the criminal conspiracy in that particular matter for a negotiated sentence of 5 years. The next one is 2022 GS 4723. This is venued in Hampton County, and the victim is Randy Murdaugh and the law firm. He will be pleading to count 3, which is money laundering, value more than $100,000, and for a negotiated sentence of 20 years. Your Honor, I would add that that particular count, and only that particular count, the plea will be pursuant to Alford. Moving on to 2022 GS 4724. This is, again, the law firm being the victim, venued in Colleton County, and he will be pleading to count 3 of obtaining signature of property by false pretenses for a negotiated sentence of 10 years. Finally, we have 2022 GS 4734. This is the series of indictments that related to his tax evasion based on his more than a decade-long schemes to defraud clients, and as well as defraud the South Carolina Department of Revenue. He will be pleading to count 9 of that particular indictment, and that will be willful attempt to evade a tax, and the negotiated sentence will be 5 years. Your Honor, obviously we are here today to resolve.
This is a global settlement of all of these indictments. He had over 101 outstanding indictments. On this one, they went victim by victim. Some of these indictments had like 13 plus, 15 plus counts. Some of them had 2 or 3 counts. So that's where we get up to that 101 figure. But we've got groups of pleas for different victims. And we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18 different kind of victims or entities represented, including the tax evasion and the theft from the law firm and the theft from his brother. So that is why Creighton read out so much. Let's let Creighton continue on and tell us what is happening now.
Indictments that span the region and span a number of counties. And this, of course, is materialized here today as we showed up for pretrial proceedings. And so obviously the proposal that we have for Your Honor is to take these pleas today with these negotiated sentences that result in a net lead sentence of 27 years at 85% time. We do request that we defer sentencing to a later time so that all the various victims can be notified. We have been in the process of notifying them, but obviously want that proceeding
But obviously we figured this out today, so we're not done yet.
To take place at a time where they can be present and speak to the court if they wish to. So we do have that request to your honor. Additionally, as we look at this particular plea agreement, because we have crimes to which he is pleading in various counties, we would request that there be a colloquy with the defendant to waive venue for those counties other than Beaufort to resolve those matters here today with this plea. In looking through the various provisions in the plea agreement, and we've gone over them in great detail with counsel, and I believe counsel has gone over them with his client. It sets forth the various pleas and the various counts to which he will be pleading that I just detailed, as well as the negotiated sentences. It also, though, has in this particular plea agreement that Mr. Murdaugh will waive any appeals that he may have and any post-conviction relief appeal that he may have as it relates to the financial matters that we are addressing here today, thus bringing finality to this sentence and to this chapter in the
So these
history
are done.
of the South Carolina judicial system. Of course, though, we would request a colloquy with him about those particular waivers as well.
So he's asking
In
the
the
court to
event
take all
that
these waivers.
Mr. Murdaugh accepts these pleas
That's why Murdaugh was
and
signed
accepts
this
this
morning.
negotiated sentence of 27 years in state prison,
So low.
then obviously the state will null pros the various remaining counts following consummation of the plea. Additionally, it's important to point
He means he's going to dismiss the rest of the charges. So if he pled to 3 charges out of a 20 count indictment, the remaining counts will all be dismissed. That's what he means by null pros.
out that this plea today does nothing to address any county charges. This is only here to address the state grand jury charges that have been indicted. It has no effect, obviously, on the murder convictions and the litigation that surrounds the murder convictions.
County-
This, again, is only here to
County charges mean the side of the road incident.
resolve those financial matters, and that is the point of this particular proceeding, to take care of that.
Without limits budgets with Aaron Lynn, are you basically telling me that this guy got 22 years, 10 months after the 85% rule for doing all of this? Yes, that's the deal. 27 years. I will say that at the state level, I personally, this is Emily opinion. I find that at the state level, the sentencing on financial crimes tends to be quite low. Federal sentencing on financial crimes tends to be a little bit higher, but not that high. I don't remember what his federal sentencing was because he pled to the federal crimes. I don't know if he's been sentenced on those yet. I would need to look. We have not heard anything about restitution yet. Murdaugh seems to be smirking over there, which is interesting. But yes, it feels low to me too. But I prosecuted a lot of cases that were financial crimes, white collar crimes. And I was always mad. They were like, it's financial crimes. Financial crimes are devastating for victims to recover from. So the law treats violent crimes in a different way than financial crimes. So, I mean, robbing somebody at gunpoint, you get treated much more harshly than if you steal everything out of their bank account or pretend to be their lawyer and lie to them and take all of their money. It is treated very, very differently in our system. So yes, it feels low to me too. I get it. I think the prosecution on part of this is like, well, he's going to get a federal sentence and he's got those murder convictions. So at the end of the day, it's all kind of monopoly money. They're like, it is what it is. And they are going to take his age into account. He is 54 years old. And age runs differently when you are in custody. People do not age gracefully in custody. They do not have the medical care that they would get. So he'll be 80 years old when he gets out. He can't get out unless something happens to the murder convictions.
I think those are perhaps the major provisions that we need to address that are in the plea agreement. Again, the main things that I think need to be addressed, of course, is from the plea agreement is Mr. Murdaugh's assent to resolution, assent to the negotiated sentence. The other provision in there is restitution. In this particular document, Mr. Murdaugh admits that he owes restitution, but the exact amounts and that order will be deferred for when we have the sentencing proceeding here in the future. Finally, I think, Your Honor, we obviously need to address these issues with Mr. Murdaugh, and then at that time, the state will go through the factual basis. It's obviously very extensive. We're talking about a multi-year course of conduct, and it is very detailed. I think our plan here for today, this is all right with Your Honor, is for me to do a quicker version, which is still going to be fairly extensive to get through the factual basis of this plea. And then at the sentencing proceeding, I would ask for leave of court again to go into more detail about exactly how Mr. Murdaugh committed.
Issa, does this add on to the murder convictions on what is charged? They haven't read out if this is to be served concurrently or consecutively. If I'm Creighton, I'm doing it consecutively, like consecutive to 2 life sentences. And then if something happens to the life sentences, then it would start. That's how I would do it, so that he doesn't get to start getting credit. This is how I would do it as a prosecutor. We'll see what Creighton does. But I would want to serve this consecutive to the life sentences. So life plus 27. So that he doesn't start getting credit until and unless the murder convictions are overturned, and then he starts serving time on this. So if somehow the murder convictions are overturned or pardoned or whatever, then he starts serving the 27. So he's not getting credit for them while he's serving the life sentences. That's what I would do. Because if that gets overturned 3 years from now, the 27 starts there. But even if it gets overturned 3 years from now, he would still get a retrial, so it might not start then. So I would want these consecutive, but we will see. Who pays the restitution when he has no money? No one. If there is a state's victim fund, they might get some money from the state's victim funds, but if he has no money, then no one pays the restitution. That is that, which sucks.
These schemes, how he used his law license to abuse the judicial system. We think there's a valid, very important and valid state interest in exposing those facts and exposing this long-time course of conduct, this abuse of power and influence for the public and for the judicial system itself. With that, Your Honor, I would yield to Your Honor to have the colloquy with Mr. Murdaugh, and then I'll be happy to address the factual basis after that.
Mr. Harpootlian?
Your Honor, Mr.
We might go to what Eric Bland had to say about this on closing arguments in a little bit. If there's no money, how is he paying Poot and Jim? That has come up in numerous court filings that I've covered, that Poot and Jim have asked for more money and haven't gotten it. There is speculation, and it is only speculation, that Poot and Jim were paid. This part's not speculative. Poot and Jim were paid to represent Paul Murdaugh. When Paul Murdaugh passed or was murdered, it doesn't seem that they gave that money back to Murdaugh. So some of that might be money that was paid to represent Paul. We will see. So we will see.
Murdaugh agrees with the state's rendition concerning the plea agreement. He has executed that plea agreement. We would also withdraw our motion for recusal, so we can proceed with you being the judge on this matter.
Oh, thanks, Poot.
I think that's all I would say prior to you having the colloquy with Mr. Murdaugh. Jim?
Mr. Griffin, any comment at this point?
No, Your Honor, I have nothing further to add.
Where's Barber?
Mr. Murdaugh, you've heard.
He's our favorite.
Or at
least he's my favorite.
Has stated, do you agree with the statements he has made?
Yes, sir.
And do you wish to withdraw your formally entered plea of not guilty and plead guilty to each and every one of these charges?
I do.
you, your lawyer, and the prosecutor have negotiated a sentence in this matter that's been recited by Mr. Waters. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
And where there's a negotiated sentence, either I will accept the plea, guilty plea, and give you the exact sentence that you, your lawyer, and the prosecutor have negotiated, or I will not accept your guilty plea. Do you understand that?
I do, yes, sir.
And would you like for me to accept the guilty plea and impose the negotiated sentence?
Yes, sir, I would.
And because the
Judges can say no. Judges can say, I'm not accepting this plea. But I saw the question get asked by more than a few of you as to whether, and I pulled this one from Kalista, can a victim decide they don't want to accept the plea? No, they can't. The victim can object to the plea. The victim can ask the court not to accept the plea. But victims aren't represented by the prosecution. The prosecution, at the end of the day, represents the state. And though they work along with the victims, they do not represent the victims. So even if the victims are like, we don't want you to take a plea, go to trial, the state can take that information and still choose to offer a plea agreement because they don't have clients. They represent the people of the state. So they have to do what is best in the best interest of the people of the state. So it is an interesting tension because, of course, you are, as a prosecutor, prosecuting a crime that oftentimes has a victim, but there are times that there are tension between the victims and the prosecutors. And we're seeing that play out in Idaho as well, where we've seen the victim's family be very unhappy with how in the dark the prosecution is keeping them. So the court can decide not to take a plea. The court can be like, I'm not taking a plea. I'm not taking that plea. I've seen courts do it. No, I'm not taking that plea. No, you can plea open to me. And this is why the court was very clear. The court said, I will either take your plea and sentence you to what the state has agreed, or I will not take your plea. Some judges will say, I will take your plea, and then you will get what you get on sentencing. That's how it works in the federal system. The prosecution can ask for whatever they want, but I will sentence you to what I want to sentence you to. The court can also make them take an open plea. Like I'm not taking the state's plea. If you want to plea, you plea to everything that's been charged and I will sentence you later. That's not what's happening here. It is either I will take your plea, you will get the state's deal of 27 years, or I will not take your plea. And Murdaugh has said, I want you to take the plea. I want the 27 years.
these cases, various counts are venued in various counties.
All.
Orangeburg County, Hampton County, Colleton County, Bamberg County, Allendale County. I think that in addition to Beaufort, do you wish to waive venue from those counties to have the case heard here in Beaufort?
I do.
Is there any question in your mind as to whether or not you wish to proceed with this guilty plea?
No, sir, there's no question in my mind.
Do you believe you've had enough time to think about it?
Yes, sir, I do.
Are
Had a
you
long
set?
time to think about it.
I can imagine.
Now is not the time to try to be funny. If you had that long to think about it, maybe don't steal from your clients, Murdaugh. Maybe. I've had plenty of time to think about it. Sir. I'm sure you have. Well, you've been sitting in custody talking about betting on football and beef sticks. But maybe you think about it before you steal from your clients. I've had plenty of time to think about it, Your Honor. Fuck off. Ooh.
Do you believe that you've had effective representation by Mr. Arputian and Mr. Griffin?
Yeah,
Absolutely.
attorneys are great. I love them. Yeah.
Now, this plea agreement includes a provision providing for a waiver of appeal and waiver of filing any post-conviction relief, as well as ordering restitution. You have reviewed those provisions and are fully informed and agree with those provisions.
I am, yes, sir.
That's exactly why I'm not a judge. 'Cause I would be sitting there going, "Meh." Yep. I'd rather do this.
Under the Victim's Bill of Rights, the court must ensure that the victim's Bill of Rights have been complied with.
Have you told them
State is
about
well
the
aware of
plea?
that, as well as your lawyers. And the victims have the right to be heard prior to the official imposition of any sentence or the official acceptance of a guilty plea. Do you understand?
Yes, sir.
And so it's the intent of the court, assuming a factual basis is established by Mr. Waters or Mr. James, that the court will accept this guilty plea contingent upon the victim's Bill of Rights being satisfied. Therefore, any sentencing will take place at a subsequent hearing, which will be on November 28th at 10 o'clock. Do you understand that?
It'll be when, sir?
November 28th.
Oh, yes, sir.
Yeah.
November 28th at 10 a.m. Eastern, which means we will be starting Tuesday's show earlier. I see a lot of you asking for Code Green. I don't know if is he, I mean, is he just being him? I feel that this is not absolutely the extent, but the chat really wants chat very much want Code Green. I love pie. I love pie. In the chat said, "Are you busy? Why are you asking?" It's like, excuse me, Murdaugh, what do you have going on, sir? What else is up? What else? Do you like what's in the cafeteria on Tuesdays? What's going on that day? Good Lord. All right, chat. Motion granted for Code Green. Let's do it. Let's do it. I'm sure we'll have a packed courthouse on Tuesday next week for this sentencing, which is why I wanted to cover this today, so that we were all up to speed when we come back for an early stream on Tuesday, since we'll be starting at 9 a.m. Central instead of 11. Maybe he has a stream to watch. Chat, y'all are too funny. All right. The audacity of it all. This one's not flashy, but we'll be back with the murdacity. Because he's had lots of time to think about it. He has a pickleball game. I don't know if they're letting him play pickleball in state prison. That feels like a Club Fed situation. I don't know how his accommodations are. I'm guessing they're not great. The thing is, he's a violent offender because of the murder conviction, so it's not as if he's going with the other white collar non-violent offenders.
Tuesday.
I'm sorry.
I understood it wouldn't be today. Yes, sir. I understand that.
All right. Understanding all that has been stated up to this point, how do you plead?
I plead guilty, Your Honor.
To all of it. I want to make him say it. Guilty, 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 guilty. Your Honor, ask him. To each victim, as to the Satterfields, guilty. As to Hakeem Pickney, guilty. Every single one, guilty, guilty. Just make him say it over and over. They're not going to do that. But Petty Emily would love for them to do that.
Be seated and we'll hear from.
Hold on. We're just going to, let's watch you take responsibility for a minute, since we didn't get to see it in federal court when he pled.
Yes, sir. I understand that.
All right. And understanding all that has been stated up to this point, how do you plead?
I plead guilty, Your Honor.
All right. Thank you. You can be seated and we'll hear from Mr. Waters.
Let's hear from Mr. Waters.
Thank you, Your Honor. And again, I plan to be somewhat brief today. It is a lot to get through, and will be.
Lies. Lawyers, I plan to be somewhat brief. Back when the Magna Carta was written,
Nope. I plan to be somewhat brief. Lies. Lies.
more detailed as to the specific mechanisms in which these schemes were.
You cannot both be brief and more detailed. Those two things are not synonymous. You are either going to be more detailed or brief. Sir, you said, I'll only be 3 weeks with this trial. 6 weeks later, Creighton. 6 weeks. You are, sir, we appreciate you, but you, brevity, like most lawyers, is not your strong suit.
Conducted at the proceeding on November 28th. But we all know, Your Honor knows, of course, having done the trial, the murder trial that we did back in January and February and March of
January, February, and March. Forever. Can you believe that was a year ago, you guys? It was a year ago.
about Mr. Murdaugh and his family legacy, his family power, his family influence, and the influence that he exercised.
Point out who's on the walls.
As
Point out who's
a
on the walls.
respected and powerful
Whose photos are
plaintiff's
those,
lawyer,
Creighton? Whose
throughout the
photos up on
state,
walls?
but particularly here in the 14th Circuit. And Your Honor is, of course, aware that after September of 2021, it was reported, of course, the firm announced that they had uncovered that Mr. Murdaugh had allegedly been stealing funds from clients, and that led to a whirlwind state grand jury investigation that started to uncover a decade-long course of conduct of stealing from clients. And I want to, first of all, I want to
Jen, you would have thought it did, but it didn't.
give thanks to the team that I have here, many of whom.
Creighton, you are not accepting an Oscar or a Streamy or whatever. You are not doing an acceptance speech. What are you doing? I would like to express gratitude for my entire team. Creighton, what? This is for sir. This is for a press conference. You could hold a press conference after this and do your victory lap acceptance speech. But what kind of acceptance speech are you giving at a guilty plea? Your Honor, I would like to thank my family. Without them, none of this would be possible. I would like to thank the subway down the street that kept me nourished throughout trial, because maybe that's too personal. I ate a lot of Subway while I was in trial. Subway and Chipotle and like El Pollo Loco kind of kept me going. I mean, and sugar. But what is happening? First of all, Your Honor, I would like to thank my team. Is he going to thank his law school next? What? I don't know. I'm going to back up because I am flabbergasted, and
A decade long.
I'm going to keep pulling up super chats and stuff at the bottom of the screen so we can, well, we're going to be here for a minute, so it's fine. I would like to thank my team. Good Lord.
Firm announced that they had uncovered that Mr. Murdaugh had allegedly been stealing funds from clients, and that led to a whirlwind state grand jury investigation that started to uncover a decade-long course of conduct of stealing from clients. And I want to, first of all, I want to give thanks to the team that I have here, many of whom you see sitting next to me, those that you saw at the murder trial that have done such Herculean work on this particular case. I have my co-counsel.
I'm going to try to not stop this every 30 seconds. However, did he just say, we have completed the Herculean work? I don't think you get to say that about yourself. God damn it. I need to be able to talk about myself in this way. When I see female prosecutors accept awards, and the DA's office gave awards, I don't know if they still do this. I saw prosecutors humble themselves for the actual Herculean work that they did, with the supervisor saying this was incredible. But to say it about oneself feels strange to me. I need to learn to brag better, because Creighton's like, the Herculean work of our office. Okay. Poot's not even listening. He's just talking to Murdaugh. Okay, let's pat ourselves on the back. Okay, Creighton. Like Metter's kind of won it for us with the jump scares during closing.
here, Johnny James, as well as co-counsel John Metters, and our forensic accountant, Carson Burney, who did excellent work on this case as well.
Good job,
we also
Carson.
have Ryan Kelly here from SLED, who's just one of the many SLED agents who worked so very hard on this particular case. In order to delve through this morass of documents and financial transactions to ultimately paint the picture.
Your Honor, we worked Herculean feats. We worked 10 hours and all we want is Wingstop, but there isn't one in like Beaufort County or Carlton County. I don't know if there actually is a Wingstop in either of those counties. I'm just speculating, but he's just ready to. What is with this speech? Do this in a press conference. This doesn't need to be done at the plea. He's just out for a victory lap at the moment.
Of what happened.
I'm going to feed my Snorlax
and what
lunch
Mr. Murdaugh
while you're
did,
doing this.
What he is now here admitting in a guilty plea that he actually did.
I mean, he admitted
but
it
I
in
want to
the
say
murder
this.
trial that was also a financial crimes trial. He did that too.
That the other people that I need to thank that is so important
I would like to thank my wife,
were these victims.
family.
And I can tell you, Your Honor, that at the beginning of this case, when I first got involved in late August of 2021, and we found out about these allegations and we started to investigate these financial crimes, and I sat down with some of these initial victims and asked them to tell their story. Asked them to go in front of the state grand jury and testify and tell their story. And I heard over and over again, Mr. Waters, you don't know who you're messing with. I have to live there.
That's fair.
And there was a palpable fear among those victims, in particular the initial ones, about coming forward. And I told them, I said, you're not going to be alone, but we're going to pursue this to its conclusion. But I can't tell your story without you.
That's also fair.
And to a man and a woman, those victims, as I sat at a conference room table and looked them in the eye and had those conversations, agreed to come forward because that was the only way that this kind of abuse of the judicial system could be exposed. It's the only way that change could happen. It is the only way that we can ensure that this courtroom and all the other state courtrooms of which
it would have been tremendously scary for these victims, a lot of whom came forward before the murder indictment. It would have been tremendously scary for them to speak against Alec Murdaugh. I appreciate that he is illuminating how hard this would have been for the victims. I still have to live there. That does not surprise me at all. Because this is before the murder conviction. It would be much easier to come forward now that he's in custody. Much, much scarier to come forward thinking that this man is going to continue to get away with it because he always has.
Those of us judges and lawyers and law enforcement officers and staff are part of, that it doesn't happen again, that it's not abused in this fashion again. And so I want to thank them because that really showed true courage. And as the ball started rolling, more and more victims came forward, more and more became willing to tell their story.
There is safety in numbers.
And as I talked to all of those individuals before they testified, the one thing, the one word that came out over and over again,
audacity,
was trust. Was trust. It's what I heard over and over again. And I think that's the heart of this case. It is the trust that comes with having that law license on the wall. It is the trust that comes with being part of a powerful family. It is trust that comes with building a powerful practice. But it is also that trust that comes with the fact of how these schemes typically worked. And the way they worked is that when Alec Murdaugh would bring those individuals in to sign the paperwork, to look at a disbursement sheet that had out all the various disbursements that were coming from these cases, in most instances, he was still handing them a really big check.
Not big enough.
And it was easy for him. It was so easy for him to smooth talk and fast talk them through these disbursement statements because he's handing them that big check. And what they didn't realize was that at the same time, he was taking money from them, sizable portions of money from them behind his back.
Yep.
And I think as we develop this case, that ultimately what it really boiled down to was such a sense of entitlement and lack of accountability.
Oh, Paige, this is the prosecution. Yep, this is the prosecution. Can we play him off? I don't think it'll work. He's not done yet.
That Mr. Murdaugh felt he was entitled to that money. And so he took it.
He definitely took it.
We've detailed before how Mr. Murdaugh had some financial difficulties that started in the recession back in the late 2000s. And he had some financial difficulties, but after that, he had some big cases, and his partners and those around him thought that those big cases, from which he generated large amounts of fees, sometimes seven figures of fees,
millions in fees,
that he had gotten everything right. But he hadn't, because his insatiable desire for money,
lavish lifestyle. Say lavish
meant
lifestyle.
that not only was he taking 6 and 7
I'm calling
figure
bingo
fees,
if he says it.
not only was he borrowing at very favorable rates from the bank, but he also
Oh yes, he overdrafted by hundreds of thousands of dollars, and they charged him like $4 or whatever. It was ridiculous.
was stealing from these clients on top of it. And the first one that's in
Kelsey, I absolutely agree with you. Absolutely agree with you. However, this is coming back for a sentencing hearing, and all of this is more appropriate for a sentencing hearing. And I guarantee you he's going to do it again at the sentencing hearing. This is the plea hearing. He needs to just explain to the judge what this defendant did and say, I'm going to reserve the rest of it for the sentencing hearing that's next week. So, and the victims will have a chance to speak at the sentencing hearing, and that's the appropriate time to acknowledge their stories, their courage, how difficult it was for them to come forward, and he's going to do it again there in front of them.
indicted by the state grand jury
So,
occurred
yes,
in December
and
of 2011. And that was from Natasha Thomas and Hakeem Pinckney.
oh, hi, Poot.
And those would be the crimes that are in 2022 GS 4701 and 02. And ultimately, he was able to steal from them with his first scheme.
I think so.
And that first scheme would be that he would have on the disbursement sheets, and those disbursement sheets are where it has the settlement and it takes out the attorney's fees and all the legitimate expenses and where all the money's going, and then the net result, the net amount that's going to the client at the bottom. It's an accounting of all how that money's being dispersed, that money that is going into his trust account that he holds in trust for those very clients. And the procedure is that you get those clients to go through that, you get them to sign it, which he didn't always even go through it with them. But the ones he did, he would put on there in the initial scheme, he would put on disbursements to Palmetto State
Angela,
Bank.
I did get new nail colors.
And these disbursements
Thank
to
you.
Palmetto State Bank
They did not have a note, but they came to the P.O. box. So thank you. They are lovely.
were easy to talk through very quickly. Staff didn't pick up on it because they looked legitimate. It was not uncommon for Palmetto State Bank to sometimes loan money or to have claims. And so it was easy for that to look legitimate. And again, everyone from the clients to the people that worked in the firm, the people that were his staff, trusted him. They were not going to question what Alec Murdaugh said to do. And so that's how the first one went down. Natasha Thomas, there were checks made out from the trust account, made out just to Palmetto State Bank. And the first one was for $325,000. That was in December of 2011. There was another one that should have gone for the benefit of Hakeem Pinckney that was made out to Palmetto State Bank, and that's
Stina asked, do you think Creighton's happy with this deal? I think he's happy that it's done. I think it frees up the AG's office to focus on other things. I think it took a while for them to get there. I don't know why it took a while for them to get there, but I'm curious. I really, because the defense has been saying Murdaugh's willing to plead to the financial crimes forever. I wondered what shifted for the state. closure for the victims is always a benefit. Not having to have Gloria Satterfield's sons testify again is a benefit to them, especially if the victims' families are also ready to move on and know that he has admitted guilt and really move on. So do I think he's happy with it? If he wasn't happy with it, he didn't have to take the deal. He didn't have to offer a deal. The prosecution can be like, fuck that, we're going to trial. He had that control and chose to make a deal. So he has to be happy enough with it to have done it. Otherwise, he wouldn't do it. And I get the sense from the AG's office that Creighton is senior enough that he doesn't have a boss being like, you're going to do this whether you like it or not. I think that Alan Wilson takes Creighton's input as kind of the top of it. So I think that's really a huge part of this, that Alan Wilson's not going to force Creighton to plea these cases if he's ready to go to trial. And he's ready to go to trial again because Murdaugh admitted everything in the last trial. Those are easy trials to just dunk on. That's not hard. But is it worth going to trial just to prove a point? Or is it more in the interest of justice to not go to trial on 101 indictments that he's basically already said he's guilty to? Is that a waste of the jury system in the state? Is that a waste of the court's time trying to find a jury that hasn't heard of Murdaugh? They were going to struggle to find a jury. And they were going to spend a lot of money to try to find a jury. And we'd already seen that in the motion to change venue. So do I think he's happy with it? I think he's happy enough with it.
$309,581.46. And once he had those checks made out to Palmetto State Bank, he would then get those checks personally or take those checks and take them over generally to Russell Lafitte at Palmetto State Bank. And then Russell Lafitte would willingly and happily then convert those monies on a PMPED trust account check.
Which is why Russell Lafitte got prosecuted by the feds.
To checks, to transactions that ultimately would go to pay the personal debts of Alec Murdaugh or into his accounts or to pay other debts that he had essentially converted for personal use. But that was not the only way that he was able to steal from them, because it's very common for law firms to withhold money from disbursement after they make that initial large disbursement to the client. They withhold money in order to satisfy any medical liens that may need to be paid out of the settlement. And it's also very common for them to then negotiate with the medical provider to pay some percentage lower than the actual lien. Well, what that does is create a very easy delta in the trust account from which Alec Murdaugh could steal. And in this particular instance, there was a money held back for a lien to Medicaid. And as soon as we figured out that's how it was working, we started to look at those delta and look at the expenditures that were there.
I don't think that's going to happen.
And ultimately we're able to find a check for $25,245.08. Dated June 13th, 2012, that ultimately was also converted through use of making the check out to Palmetto State Bank, and then was structured
for the benefit of
Mr. Murdaugh with money orders and cash under $10,000. That again is December 2011. We move on, and one of the things that Mr. Murdaugh
somebody said Jim was playing Suika. I hope
was have Russell Lafitte appointed as the
Jim has a podcast.
Conservator for two minors that had their relative had been killed in a wreck, and he started to have Mr. Lafitte cut loans at extremely, almost non-existent interest rates to him to keep him afloat, because what Alec also had going on was a constant velocity of money where he was constantly borrowing money and servicing debt. And to keep those debts alive.
Kind of like Corey Richins. Kind of like Tom Girardi. When you start to look at a lot of financial crimes cases, you start to see pretty regular patterns. And this fits the same pattern. It's more egregious to me because of the position of trust. With him being a lawyer, like it's more egregious, but it's the same pattern of servicing debts and, pulling from pulling from one place to pay off another place to constantly keep trying to patch the dam so it doesn't just burst open. And that's absolutely where Murdaugh was.
To keep those debts afloat, he had to keep that influx of money coming in.
Where the money was going?
Law firm, whether it came from
questions.
Stealing from clients, whether it came from new loans. And during that period of time, there was about $1 million of loans that Russell Lafitte wrote to Alec Murdaugh to cover various debts that he had, to keep debts from going bad, to keep them from going into default. And so that highlighted the need to continue to steal money from his clients. And so the next one that we had, and this would have been starting in February of 2013, but this would be where he stole $1.325 million from a case involving Arthur Badger and his deceased wife and their heirs. And this would be the crimes as it relates to 2022 GS 47-3. Ultimately, again, it was $1.325
I don't know where the money is, y'all.
And one of the things that Mr. Murdaugh did to allow him to do that was, when there are multiple plaintiffs, the defense attorneys, once they agree on a global, the civil defense attorneys, once they agree on a global settlement, often rely on the plaintiff's attorneys to allocate those monies among their various plaintiffs. And he allocated the money in such a fashion that the vast majority went to Arthur Badger, even though that really made no sense in the context of the injuries of the case. I'm still playing with my StreamYard layouts. And so he still was able to give Arthur Badger a check, a six-figure check, that was a great result in what Arthur Badger was expecting, not realizing that the vast majority of that money, that $1.325 million, was ultimately going to be stolen by Alec. And at that point,
though, he's making a record for me that's a record against why it should be 27 years. Like, he's making a record that to me says this is why this all should be more than 27 years.
Point in time, he had the checks cut.
Lawyer brief is a lie. It doesn't happen.
About 9 or 10 different instruments. And again, using the method of having them made out to Palmetto State Bank.
No, this is a speech. The colloquy was between the judge and Murdaugh when the judge was asking Alec Murdaugh if he waived venue and jurisdiction, because a lot of what he's pleading to today happened in different counties, and generally your butt needs to. This never happened in LA for me because LA County is so damn big. It was normally, if there were cases from other places, they were from elsewhere in LA County because it's such a huge county. But here, a lot of these crimes occurred all over the Low Country in different counties. And we heard the judge ask him to waive the jurisdiction so that he didn't have to be transported to each different county to sit in that county and plea, because they were charged in all of the different counties. And he listed them off. They're in Beaufort County right now, but he listed Colleton and all the other ones. I've already forgotten. Emily, do you remember any of them? No, a bunch of them. So that was part of the colloquy. And then the back and forth between the judge and the defendant was the colloquy. That's done. And now we're getting a speech.
And ultimately, those checks then were deposited to give the illusion of regular payments.
This is going to take a minute.
On the million or so loans that had come from those other clients where he had Russell Lafitte appointed as the conservator. And again,
this is like 10 football minutes.
Over $1 million of theft from 2013 to 2014. The next case that
He's
went
going
on
case by case
was an individual by the name of Dion Martin. And Your Honor, this would be.
I hope he lines out all the Pinckney stuff. It's
crimes that were alleged
all of
in
these crimes are
2021 GS
horrific.
4729 in Allendale.
Allendale
Mr. Martin
County
had been injured in a wreck. And this is where we start to see the scheme change. And what Mr. Murdaugh did was take advantage of the fact that it's very common for plaintiffs' lawyers in the state to use the legitimate business Forge Consulting. And Forge Consulting is a business that matches defendants or their insurance.
Poot's trying to stay awake. Fake Forge. Y'all, if Poot if Poot's eyes start to close into long, slow blinks, you let me know if Poot starts to fall asleep at council table. But now we're getting into the fake forge part of it.
With annuity companies to set up annuities or structures for the benefit of plaintiffs who were receiving large settlements. And so what he did was go to Bank of America and set up an account, Richard Alexander Murdaugh, doing business as Forge. And once he had that account set up, then it became very easy on these disbursement statements to put a disbursement down to Forge. And again, it's not going to alert the staff because they're used to seeing that Forge. It looks like to them it's going to a legitimate structure. But the reality is now Alec Murdaugh didn't need a middleman. All he had to do was get that check made out to Forge, and then he could take it down to the bank, deposit it into his Bank of America Forge account, and then transfer it into various other accounts or various other personal debts that he had and convert all that money. And he would tell his staff things like, oh, well, I'm going to go meet the president of Forge. We're going hunting. I'm going to go meet him. I'm going to go meet him for lunch in Orangeburg. I'm going to be in Columbia.
We're not going to get to see the owner of the real Forge testify again, which is kind of a bummer.
So just give me the check and I'll take it to him. But of course, the second he had that physical check in his hand, he could then deposit it into that fake Forge account that he controlled. And so that is how the scheme moved for the most part from that point on. Ultimately, in October of 2015, he had a Forge disbursement check cut for $338,056.14. Excuse me. And ultimately, that was a Forge disbursement that was stolen by Mr. Murdaugh. He also then had a second check in October of 16 that was for $45,000 that he was able to get dispersed to Forge and then converted through his fake Forge account. And then he had a sort of phantom recovery that he put in the disbursement sheet that was listed as a structured for annuity directly to Michael Gunn for $500,000. And this actually was a theft that resulted in a phantom figure being on the disbursement sheet for which then he was credited
phantom, do you mean made
with
up?
his firm, which ultimately affected how much money he would get paid from the firm at the end of the year when they got their bonuses for the amount of $200,000, which in practical terms resulted in a $185,000 extra year-end bonus for him. Your Honor, that would be the facts as it relates to Mr. Dion Martin.
What are y'all giggling about at defense table?
Moving on, the next victim was Johnny Bush.
I have.
Your Honor, and this would be the crimes that are alleged in.
But to be fair, there's also times I've sat at counsel table, particularly after lunch, where I'm just like, nope, we can't. Nope. There are days in court where you're just like, we are going to like try to wake up. There are tough days, especially in trial, and the after lunch can get you. I've seen jurors fall asleep, more common than counsel, but yep, absolutely seen it. I always advised jurors, remember, eat a light lunch. Paying attention after lunch is hard. And I would try to structure my trials so that information that wasn't as critical was after lunch, or information that was really interesting and kind of gripping was after lunch. I tried not to put dry information, especially in financial cases, dry information that was really important after lunch, because there's no way. So cell phone tower data that was really necessary before lunch, bank data that was really necessary before lunch, dry important stuff before lunch, really interesting stuff after lunch, or stuff that is important but not going to make or break a jury verdict after lunch. It was a big part of my trial strategy was trying to play to people's attention.
2021 GS 4736. The amount here was $95,000. Johnny Bush was a longtime friend of Mr. Murdaugh, who again trusted him implicitly, and he was able to put into the disbursement a check to Forge.
we all need to break this up. Jacqueline, this is a fair, absolutely fair comment. However, the judge is sentencing him to what the defense of the prosecution has agreed on. There's no discretion here. The judge is taking the plea. The judge is going to hear from the victims, and he's going to get sentenced to the 27 years that he gets sentenced to. So that's about it. So, advise jurors, yes, in my opening statements, in my voir dire, I would say things like, and we can't have a heavy lunch because then we'll be tired after lunch. So there were comments that tried to help, like eat a light lunch. And we would have judges that would say, remember, have a light lunch because it's going to get heavy. But no, in voir dire, I would absolutely mention that a heavy lunch during trial is a bad idea. Absolutely. I loved it. When
and ultimately, once he got that fake forged check in his hand from the trust account, he put it into his account and was able to steal that money. The next one is Manuel Santos Cristiani. This one would have been in August 11th, 2016. And this would be the crimes that are alleged in 2021 GS 4731. The amount there was $70,000. And again, there was a forged disbursement that was put under the liens category for $70,000 that Mr. Murdaugh was able to convert to his own use through the fake forge account. That was actually supposed to be money to pay off a MUSC lien, but instead Mr. Murdaugh stole that money. Moving on to the next one, we have Jamie and Richard. Again,
I think for the defense, they're just tired of hearing Creighton talk. They're just like, nothing Creighton says is of any import to them. Creighton is making a record on a case that can't be appealed. And the defense attorneys, nothing he says they're going to object to. They're just letting him run. And so they're just like, okay, Creighton, do your thing. They're just done. None of this matters. Of course, they're looking at their phones. There's no jury here. The judge, I wish we could see the judge, but Creighton is just getting to make the record that he wants to make. And that's it. And the rest of them are just like, meh.
A couple that trusted Mr. Murdaugh implicitly. And in that particular case, there was a disbursement for $90,000. And Your Honor, this would be the crimes that are alleged in (2021) GS 4737.
Yeah, not
there
all
was a
court is
$90,000 check made out to Forge that he converted through the fake Forge account. He also misappropriated.
I am most invested in whether or not Poop falls asleep.
Legitimate case-related expenses, $5,504.94 that were used to pay for a private plane trip, limo service, and meals. That were ultimately billed to the client as if they were legitimate. Instead, they were for the personal luxury use of Mr. Murdaugh.
And his friends.
Around this time, we're moving into 2016, and his financial situation is continuing.
The Satterfield case is not next. Hey, Joe, let's go. It is part of this global settlement of the financial crimes. So no more time. The financial crimes are all being settled in this plea deal. Murdaugh has pled guilty. Creighton is making a record. Still.
It's going to get worse. He's got a line of credit for $1 million that's maxed out among substantial other debts. And we move on to some of the other crimes that took place. And the next one on the list would be another theft involving the Pinckney matter. I mentioned Natasha Thomas and Hakeem Pinckney. That was the son of Pamela Pinckney. They were all involved in this particular accident. And ultimately, he had his co-conspirator, Corey Fleming, who had represented Pamela Pinckney because she was driving. And the way it works, of course, is because she was driving, she had to be named as a defendant, even though she was effectively an allied plaintiff, and that's very common. But he had Corey Fleming represent Ms. Pinckney. And Mr. Fleming, despite having made substantial disbursements to Pamela Pinckney, ultimately agreed to have a check for $89,133.44.
I mean, this is probably one of the times. There's a few times where I find myself on the same wavelength as Poot. This is one of those times I could also go for a nap right now. And I'm in the middle of streaming, talking to, 7,000 of y'all, but I'm also like, okay, let's keep it together. So Chad, I empathize with Poot. Look, it happens. It happens now. Now there's empathy. I also am feeling a little nappy nap.
Cut from his trust account at the Moskun and Fleming trust account and sent to the PMPD trust account. And again, Mr. Fleming never contacted Ms. Pinckney and said, "Hey, I got 89 grand. I'm sending it over to Alec."
So much what
instead,
Girardi
sent it
did.
right over there, and Mr. Murdaugh was able to convert those funds to his own personal use.
Steal. Just say steal. I understand conversion's the legal term. Steal. He stole them. Can we just use common language?
And Your Honor, that again would go back to 2022 GS 4702.
No. Further affiant say if not.
Case. The next victim was a man by the name of Randy Drawdy, who had a fairly small claim for the type of claims that we're dealing with, that Mr. Murdaugh was dealing with. But ultimately, there had been funds that were withheld to pay a potential medical bill that
I talked
needed
about
to be
yawning
paid out
and
of
now
the
I'm
account.
yawning.
But instead of that happening, on October 3rd, 2017, Mr. Murdaugh instead had those funds for $9,569.30 cut from the trust account to Forge and ultimately converted to his own personal use. Your Honor, the Randy Drawdy case, that is 2021 GS 4732. Our next victim is an individual by the name of Jordan Jenks. Mr. Jenks had a case here in Beaufort County
We're
that was
getting
being
towards
held,
the end.
handled by Mr. Murdaugh.
We've got
And again,
one,
in this particular
2,
instance, there was
3.
$150,000
Not at all.
that was held back by the law firm to settle
Oh, he's out of
medical
order.
liens
Never
in the
mind.
case that should have gone
I was trying to help, but I can't.
to the medical provider. But instead, that $150,000
I would have
in
thought
two
so.
separate checks, one for $85,000 in August 1st, 2018, and a second one for $65,000 in September 18th, 2018.
I would have thought he would have saved this till
He
then,
had
but
those cut to Forge. Mr. Murdaugh did to his
Here
fake
we
Forge
are.
account and ultimately converted those funds to his personal
Forge.
use. And Your Honor, again, the Jinx case would be 2020.
Mad X Mickey, since we all need a minute from Creighton going through the cases. No. The judge can either sentence him to the plea deal or not take the plea deal. The plea deal is not guidelines. It is, if you're pleading, you are getting this much time, or the judge will not take the deal. So no, the judge can't have Murdaugh plea and be like, the state wanted to give you 27, but also fuck you, I'm going to give you 127 or whatever. The judge cannot do that. In federal sentencing, the prosecution makes recommendations, but at federal sentencing, the judge sentences. So the defendant pleads, the prosecution makes a recommendation, the judge sentences. But judges in this context either take the plea or don't take the plea, but can't take the plea and then modify it. They can take an open plea and sentence, but that's not what's happening here.
21 GS 4735.
Hope that helps.
The next case that we had,
Chat, motion granted to put Creighton on like 1.2x.
bear with me real quick, Your Honor,
We can do that.
would be the
I
Satterfield
hate
case.
that we don't have closed captioning though.
And that would have been the case that the state was prepared to try here in a week. Gloria Satterfield was the longtime housekeeper for Mr. Murdaugh and his family. She suffered a fall at his home at Moselle and survived for a period of time, but ultimately died. And Mr. Murdaugh, who had the trust of the Satterfield family, who had known him for years, even at the funeral, told family members, I'm going to help those boys. I'm going to help the Satterfield sons. And essentially, I'm going to have them sue me
I'm going to sue
so
myself.
that I can make sure to get money for Gloria and for y'all.
Poot, those are contagious.
And even though he
Casey Cat, there is no other option here. There is 27 years on the table. That is it. He either gets 27 or he doesn't, but he's going to get 27 because the court already accepted his plea and will sentence him to 27. So no, there's no encouraging anything different. He's making a record. I would have thought he would have made this type of a record at sentencing. If he starts doing this again at sentencing, I'm going to lose my mind.
Is going to be the defendant, not the defense attorney, but the defendant in this particular action.
Even though he was trying to back
had his office
attorney.
Prepare the appointment letters, to prepare a request for medical records, and dealt directly with Tony Satterfield and that family, who considered him
his
to be their
behavior
lawyer.
is so shameful. All of it.
And eventually, he brought in his co-conspirator Corey Fleming to.
I mean, stealing from people so they can't even pay their medical bills from the injury suffered, which is the reason that they're suing, is it's just so beyond the bounds of decent behavior. Ugh.
Represent them. And one of the things they did was they first obtained a settlement check for $505,000 from one of the two insurance companies at issue in this case. And even though they already had the check, they arranged and convinced Tony Satterfield to allow an individual by the name of Chad Westendorf, who worked at Palmetto State Bank, to be the personal representative of the estate. And the net result of that was, and the point of that was, and the reason for that was to essentially make Chad Westendorf a patsy, and to avoid ever having to communicate directly to the Satterfields, who had no idea when they agreed to do that $500,000 had already been received. And in fact, they held the check. It's even in the emails. They intentionally held the check until they could get the paperwork done to appoint Chad Westendorf, and then backdated it.
Yep.
Backdated the date of his appointment. And so once that happened,
they cut the Satterfields out completely, so they didn't even have to communicate with her sons, because they cut them out as managing the estate for no reason, it seems to me, other than to loop them out of all the communications.
They got the check signed. They got the disbursement signed by Chad Westendorf. Corey Fleming took his fee and then gave to Alec Murdaugh. And in some instances, Alec came over to the office and picked it up in person, a check for Forge. And that first one was on January 7th, 2019 for $403,500. And of course, Mr. Murdaugh deposited that into his fake Forge account and converted that money to his personal use. No one ever, not Corey Fleming, not Alec Murdaugh, ever told the Satterfield boys that any recovery had ever been received. And they told Chad Westendorf, just sign here, we got this, we'll take care of it. They went to a meeting at the court where Alec was present there with Corey Fleming and with Chad Westendorf.
Creighton's
Alec
definition
there
of
again
brief
was
is not
doing a lot of the talking, if not most of the talking, and saying, I want to help these boys. I know they're suing me, but we're doing this. I want to help these boys. But it was all a ruse.
to
They
steal.
put in place their patsy so that Alec could steal this money and Corey could get his massive fees from this as well.
Thank you for finally saying steal.
The scheme went on because there was still a $5 million umbrella policy out there at issue. And ultimately, after there was a mediation that Alec attended,
That's still being
the
litigated over.
insurance company
The
decided
insurance company.
there's no way we're going to win this with Alec Murdaugh. And so they
Fighting us.
agreed to pay a $3.8 million settlement.
Yep.
Again, no one informs the Satterfield boys of this. No one informs the Satterfield family of this. And Alec and Corey ultimately have a check cut from the Moskun and Fleming account for $2,961,931.95. That was in May of 2019, made out to Forge. That check is delivered to Alec, who then deposits it into his fake Forge account and steals it. And this one is different, Your Honor. This is different from the others because usually the scheme, and it works so well because, like I said before, he's looking at these clients, he's dealing with these clients, he's handing them a life-changing money in a check, and they're so focused on that, they're not realizing that he's stealing from them behind their backs. But in the Satterfield case,
They got
they
nothing.
stole every dime.
Nothing.
Every dime. And Your Honor, nothing happened on that case for a while until around October of 2020, And at that point in time, Alec and Corey get together. They cut a check for $118,000 from the Moss, Coon, and Fleming trust account, which Corey delivers to Alec. And Alec, again, quickly disperses that money through use of his fake forge account for his own personal benefit. They even at that point in time, Your Honor, sign a stipulation of dismissal in the case. And it's signed by Corey Fleming, and it's signed by Alec Murdaugh, the defendant, personally. Not the attorney for the insurance company. He is not informed. He's not advised of any of this. The whole scheme was to divert the entirety of this money from those boys after he had repeatedly represented to them and their family to the point that they thought Alec was their lawyer. Tony Satterfield would send letters to Alec Murdaugh. He would call him on the phone because he thought Alec was his attorney. He thought Alec was acting in his interest. And when some media articles started to come out about the $500,000 settlement, even though this money had already been paid and long stolen, Alec sent a text to Tony Satterfield saying, hey, working on the case, there's just complicated, just words to that effect, that, hey, I'm working on it, there's just a lot that needs to be done.
Very
Your
much
Honor,
like Girardi.
That's a very short version of the scheme as it related to the Satterfields, but that would be the crimes as alleged in 2021 GS 47.
I guess it's fair that when you see trials being at
The next
least
one, Your
long,
Honor,
that's the short
is
version.
the estate of Blondell Gary. And in that particular instance, of course, he's dealing with the heirs and the relatives of Miss Gary. And ultimately, they held back funds from disbursement because there needed to be some determination about the legal status, and the entitlement of another relative was the reason that was given.
Yeah, no lawyer should be honored to represent this man. He is a stain on the profession at a minimum. It was so appalling to see. It should be my job as an ethical attorney is to provide a defense, and I am providing a defense. And this is me doing my job. That's not what they said. I have a lot of questions about Poot. Does he see that it's just like, hey, it's fine? I don't know. All right, let's keep going. We're through some more of it. We're going to see more of this at sentencing. I'm very much more interested to hear the victim impact statements at sentencing, to see if we will hear from the lawyers that represent some of these victims at sentencing. And we might get to some of that today. We've got some time.
Ultimately,
we're doing a
the
lot.
second that money got held back, it didn't take long, and this would have been in April of 2019. Instead of resolving that issue and dispersing appropriately, Mr. Murdaugh had $112,500 dispersed from his trust account to Forge and then converted through use of his fake Forge account.
Fake Forge.
The next one is Christopher Anderson. That's 2021 GS 4734. And in this particular instance, there was a large recovery that was received in the case. And Mr. Murdaugh, in that particular instance, indicated that no fees were being taken, but instead had a disbursement made to Forge of $750,000. And he deposited that.
It's normal at plea to give a synopsis of the case. This is unusual in that this is not one case. This is like 10 different cases. So he's giving a synopsis of each one. Normally, you would see that done at sentencing. I wonder if he's trying to reserve, I'm not optimistic, wondering if he's trying to reserve time at sentencing for the victim impact statements, perhaps, so he doesn't have to do this again. He's making the record of each case that's been pled to, because, again, this was over 101 different indictments with a number of different victims.
To his fake Forge account and stole every bit of it. Next one, Your Honor, is the estate of Sandra Taylor. 2021 GS 4738. In this particular instance, Ms. Taylor had died, had 3 minor children, and Mr. Murdaugh sat down at a table and dealt directly with her grieving mother. Told her he was going to take care of her.
That's fair.
And told her that the most he was going to be able to get was $30,000 to $10,000 for each child. Instead, he settled the case without talking to her for $152,866, thereabouts. That is the amount of the check that ultimately in November of 2020, he then had dispersed to the fake forge and ultimately converted all that money to his own benefit. That was another one, and I talked to her mother, that was another one where she, first of all, believed.
I think the money's been structured and some of it hidden. I don't think all of it.
To get the $30,000, because she didn't realize not only was that a woefully insufficient recovery, but that was such meaningful money to her from her situation. And she believed him. She thanked him. She thought he was working in his best interest. And he stole every bit of it.
Congratulations,
she didn't get
Mary.
one thin dime.
And we're seeing as the fraud scheme, because I think he's going in chronological order, as he gets bolder in this scheme, we're seeing more and more that clients aren't getting paid. So at the beginning of the scheme, it was clients were getting paid, but they weren't getting all of their recovery. So they would think that they had received all of their recovery, but they didn't know they hadn't received all of their recovery. As the scheme goes on, clients are starting to not get paid anything. And so you're seeing not only the amount of theft go up, but the boldness of the theft go up, and then the fact that the clients aren't even getting paid. So you see this escalation that's so common in long-running fraud cases.
That is 2021 GS 4738.
This was sent a few hours ago, Lizzie B. I hope it's still true. Glad to have
Next
you here
one
live, Mary.
is 2021 GS 4727, and in this instance, the victim is Thomas Moore, who was a state trooper who was injured. And in that particular instance,
I think we've seen him in some of the docuseries that have been done about this case.
again, Mr.
Thomas
Murdaugh,
Moore.
his insatiable need as we're moving to the end, to everything coming to a head, his insatiable need for money changed the scheme from where money was actually being provided to the clients while he stole the rest of it. In this instance, there was a recovery
It's like prosecutors sometimes think alike.
of $125,000.
I just said
in
that.
which he diverted to fake forge all of that $125,000 and forged Mr. Moore's signature on the disbursement statement.
I mean, these are catastrophically injured clients. A lot of the money that they recover is meant to cover medical bills and future need. It is not just life-changing money, it is life-sustaining money that is being taken from these victims. This is the money that is meant to support them in the needs that they have post-injury. Anyone who's dealt with substantial medical bills or injury can attest to the fact that this is not just, oh, well, now we can afford a different house. It is, oh, we can afford our prescriptions, our doctor's bills, the surgery that we need. So for most of them, this is money that is meant for medical. So who paid the medical bills? Some of them did, some of them couldn't. So it's not just a recovery. These are recoveries from catastrophically injured clients. So if medical is not paid, those clients go into debt. The Satterfields lost their home while he was stealing money from them. Horrible. Absolutely horrible. Yep. Things like that.
Almost done, Your Honor.
Lies.
The next set of victims, as we move into the spring of 2021, and this would be 2021 GS 4728, and this would be the victim being the law firm and Chris Wilson. And this was one of Alec's last plays to get some significant money because things were really falling apart and coming to a head. And he tried that case,
This is actually almost done.
legitimate case, in December of 2020. And ultimately, there was a very sizable recovery,
yet?
but it was a case
Are we there
where
yet?
Alec, Chris Wilson, and another attorney were on the case. So it was a fee split case, which is very common.
I think
And
Jim's
his
reading the plea
amount of
deal.
the fees from that case, that being Mr. Murdaugh, was $792,000. And ultimately, he convinced Mr. Wilson to write those checks for his portion of the fees, not to the firm as they were legally supposed to be done, so that they could be accounted for in the firm's finances, but to write them directly to him. And the reason, of course, is that he needed that money right then and there. And if it went to the firm, not only would it eventually be cut down by all the various overhead and other things that had to be paid for according to the firm agreement, but more importantly, he wouldn't get that sizable sum of money until the firm settled up and paid bonuses at the end of the year. And then we're talking about in the spring of 2021. He wasn't looking at any chance of getting that money until the end of the year. So he diverted those fees from the firm, and that's part of the crime there. But ultimately, when all of this came to light, before it came to light, after the murders, but before his theft started to be uncovered, one of the first things he needed to do was to get that money paid back, because that is one of the things that was bringing everything to a head. The firm was after Alec as to where are these fees? Where happened to them? Did you take these fees?
Not just the firm, Jeannie, who is related to Russell Lafitte. She was one of the lead witnesses at that trial. She was on his ass. The CFO of the law firm was like, what is happening here? Yep. And she was a great witness regarding the financial crimes. And if this had gone to trial, would have continued to be a great witness on the financial crimes. She was absolutely no bullshit. She knew him from high school. She was saddened by what was going on, but she wasn't going down for his shit. She wasn't letting the law firm go down for his shit. She was the backbone of this law firm finding out what was going on. She did that. And it was incredible to watch her testimony, because there was an incredible amount of strength in her testimony, even though there was sadness there. I thought she was a great witness.
And so in the aftermath of the murders, he borrowed some money and was able to send $600,000 to Chris Wilson and convinced Chris Wilson to cover the other $192,000 so that Chris Wilson could tell his law firm, Alec's law firm, that that money, that $792, was in the trust account. Nothing to see here. Everything's just fine. And he told Chris Wilson some lies about he just had some money tied up here, there, and everywhere, and that he would pay him back. But it wasn't true. And ultimately, he then defrauded Chris Wilson out of that $192,000.
Yeah, he stole from everyone.
A few more matters, Your Honor.
Including
2022
his friends.
GS 4710. This particular indictment dealt with a number of things, including the checks that Mr. Murdaugh was writing to Curtis Eddie Smith, as well as drug charges related to that for the opiate pills. And ultimately, in that particular indictment,
I didn't think we were getting to Cousin Eddie today. And here we are.
dealing with the large cash out of money that Mr. Murdaugh had been engaging in, particularly after the boat wreck happened. Ultimately, he's pleading to a criminal conspiracy for that one, and that would be 2022 GS 4710. The next one is 2022 GS 4723, and in this particular instance, the victims are his brother Randy Murdaugh and the law firm. And this is the one, Your Honor, where Mr. Murdaugh is pleading pursuant to Alfred.
Yep.
But the state, and that's something that I've never done before, is do an Alfred plea, but given the substantial admission.
Yep. I don't know why you're letting him do it, Creighton. Put your foot down, man. No, admit to stealing from your brother.
To which Mr. Murdaugh is making here today, we've agreed to accept that, but the state is very confident in the evidence that it can present and pursue on that matter. And that's essentially the double dip. It was very common for, after the firm cashed out and paid all the bonuses, to get.
I should probably, thank you, Chad. I should probably get to what is an Alfred plea. So thank you, Cindy, for reminding me. We haven't talked about Alfred pleas in a while. It has nothing to do with Batman. An Alfred plea, sometimes called different things depending on the state, but an Alfred plea is like a no contest plea, saying I'm admitting to committing the crime and that the state has enough evidence to obtain a conviction, but I'm also not admitting to all of the factors of the crime. Like, yes, the state could convict me on it, but I'm not really admitting liability. So that's what the Alford plea is. Like, yes, I'm willing to plead guilty and accept responsibility. And yes, they might be able to convict me, but I'm not really taking full responsibility to say, yes, I did that. So that is what an Alford plea is. It's like it's a no contest plea. Like, yes, I'm pleading and accepting responsibility, but I'm not saying that I did it, if that makes sense. So hopefully that makes sense. So admitting to the plea, but not admitting to the guilt. This is really common when we are dealing with cases where there is a criminal case going on and a civil case, so that the criminal plea can't be used against them for civil liability because they're not exactly admitting to guilt, but they are taking responsibility to end the case. That's generally where you see it happen. And there still is ongoing civil litigation with the law firm, which might be why it's happening here, because there still is litigation going on with the law firm, and it might be that. So it's not uncommon to see. So I didn't do it, but I can see you think that it was me. It's like I will plead guilty, but I'm not saying that I did the thing. Yep. I'll have to come up with a better colloquial for it. My brain.
4 members of the firm to loan money to the firm so that it can operate until fees came in, and those loans
I
would be
mean
repaid.
that it's
And ultimately,
fair.
the finance office at the firm made a mistake and wrote a check
I get it wrong all the time because we called them no contest pleas in California.
for $121,358.63 to Alec Murdaugh instead of Randy Murdaugh. And what Mr. Murdaugh did, instead of correcting that, is he ultimately sat on that check.
I think he's
and
saying
went down
it
to
was
the
an
finance
accident.
office not long after that and said, "Hey, I lost that check. Can you cut me another one?" And again, the staff there, trusting the powerful lawyer, one of the senior partners in the firm, cut him that check. So now he has a second check for the
It
same
wasn't
exact
me,
amount, which he
but
immediately
I don't want to go to
deposits
trial.
and uses to pay substantial debts. He then sits on that initial check for an extended period of time and then cashes in as well. And so ultimately was able to, according to the evidence developed by the state, steal the same money twice.
Andrew, that's a very good summary of it. Admitting it, but not admitting, but not disputing.
Again, Your Honor, that's 2022 GS 4723.
Basically.
Finally, Your Honor, we have 2022 GS 4734 and ultimately 2023 GS 473.
We're almost done.
Let me, Mr. James corrected me on one I need to cover.
I love seeing how productive y'all have been. Yes, he's still going. He said finally like 3 times.
2022 GS 4720.
He's like me. I log off of a stream like 7 times. Is a no contest plea the same thing as a no low contendere plea? Yes. No contest and no low are the same thing, and the same thing as the Alford plea. The Alford plea. The Alford plea. I know. I like Alford better. We don't have to be
and
so
again,
picky.
in this particular instance, the victim was the law firm. And this is another one where Forge was ultimately used, but instead of stealing money from the client, essentially he was able to divert attorney's fees from that should have gone within the firm and divert those out through payments made out to Forge that he then diverted through to fake Forge. And those would be 2 checks.
Yeah,
the total amount
was always the easiest way.
$175,200.83. It was 2 checks, one for $91,867.50 and another check for $83,333.33.
This Alford plea equals YouTube apology. People said I did things. I'm not saying that I did things, but I'm sorry that you're mad. YouTube apology. I'm sorry that you're trying to prosecute me about it. I'm not going to say I did it, but I'd also like you to stop now. That's fine.
Finally, we have all this substantial money over the years from 2011 all the way through 2021. Substantial money that Alec Murdaugh stole and washed through his various accounts and converted to personal use or used to pay for his personal debts, which is income
back to money laundering
under the law.
Oh, back to the tax
lawyer knows
evasion.
And so he was.
Even if you steal the money, you still owe taxes on it. The U.S. government has this market cornered. Even if you're stealing money from your clients and money laundering it, you still owe taxes on it because you've moved it to personal use and it's now attributable as income. So we are going to bing you on the money laundering, and then we're going to bing you again on the tax liability. And that's what they're talking about now.
Ultimately indicted for tax evasion for each one of those years.
The
largest
feds
one being
will get
over
theirs.
$263,000.
This is the state of South Carolina. The tax authorities will always find a way to get their money.
In state income tax that he would have owed. That, of course, was the year where he stole the most from the Satterfields. And ultimately, he's pleading guilty to count 9 of that, 2022 GS 4734, for the tax evasion charge as it relates to that. Your Honor, again, that's a lot.
Yep.
But that is the factual basis, the very skinny factual basis for the schemes, the thefts, and the defrauding that this
Your Honor, that's a lot.
former lawyer,
Facts.
Alec Murdaugh, used his power and his influence and his law license
To
in these
steal.
courtrooms to steal for over a decade. Thank
Yep.
you. Great.
Thank you, Creighton. They're like, thanks, Creighton. Oh, Creighton now chatting with Jim just to confirm all the different
Mr. Murdaugh, aside
sheets.
from the count or the indictment that you are pleading guilty on the Alford, aside from that particular one, do you disagree with any of the facts stated by Mr. Waters?
I agree that
Sir? It was a yes or no question. Except for the Alford as to the money with the brother. Do you agree with the factual basis laid out by the state? We don't want to hear anything else from you. Do you agree? Yes. Period. What the fuck could you possibly have to say? We're going to back up and find out. I'm going to put this at normal speed because now I'm curious if this answer is not a simple yes.
On the Alford, aside from that particular one, do you disagree with any of the facts
so it's a
stated
no.
by Mr.
Do you
Waters?
disagree? No. No.
I agree that I wrongly took all of that money, Your Honor, and did all of those crimes. I disagree with some of the narrative, but not the essential elements of the facts of the crimes.
And do you believe that if you were to proceed with a jury trial on these charges that you would be found guilty?
I am guilty, and yes, sir, I believe that I would be found guilty.
All right. Mr. Harpootlian, Mr. Griffin?
Nothing, Your Honor.
Nothing.
I don't agree with the state's narrative. Well, then why don't you explain why you stole all the money and where the fuck it went? Explain that. If you disagree, explain it. I am guilty. Great. Explain it. Explain it.
Nothing further, Your Honor.
Anything else with regard?
Name them. That's all I can think of in my brain. Name them. I disagree with the narrative. Name them. Name them. Name them. Name them. Name them. Somebody get me the Sutton meme. Name them.
To the guilty plea that you'd like to say today, Mr. Murdaugh?
No, sir, other than I'm glad to finally be given the opportunity.
Is there anything else you would like to say? No, sir. And then he keeps talking. What beyond no, sir needs to be said? I want to find out.
Nothing further, Your Honor.
Anything else with regard to the guilty plea that you'd like to say today, Mr. Murdaugh?
No, sir, other than I'm glad to finally be given the opportunity to plead guilty. I am happy to be pleading guilty to these charges for a number of reasons.
Name them.
Thank you.
Your Honor,
Yes, sir.
I don't know whether you need to inquire about the Alford do you need to make a specific inquiry
He
on
did that. I think he did that.
Yes, sir. With regard to the offered plea,
I'm pretty sure he already did that.
you are not acknowledging guilt, but you like to take advantage of this overall global plea arrangement with the state, and
He was making a dig at the state because they would not put a deal on the table. He's like, I've been wanting to plead to this shit forever. It's the murders that I disagree with.
acknowledging guilt on that basis without admitting any guilt.
I'm acknowledging that I would be convicted if tried on that, Your Honor.
Anything
Accurate.
further on the
No, sir,
offer?
Your Honor.
Anything further, Mr. Waters?
Not from the state, Your Honor.
Well, as indicated, there
That was the goal.
clearly appears to be a factual basis for all of the guilty pleas. I find that it's in the best interest of the state and the defense that this.
I thought the court had gone really quickly through the Alford, but Poot went back through and said, do we want to make a record better?
Guilty plea, these guilty pleas be made, but respecting the rights of the victims to be present to provide the court with whatever additional information that they think the court should have. We will defer the full acceptance of the plea until November 28th at 10 o'clock. And again, where there's a negotiated sentence, either I will accept the guilty plea and impose the exact sentence that that you, your lawyer, and the state have agreed upon, or I will not accept the guilty plea. And at this point, I fully intend to accept the guilty plea after hearing from victims. Anything?
Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you, Judge.
And we're
Anything
done.
further today?
Nothing from the
No,
state,
sir, Your Honor.
That's it.
Very well. We will be adjourned.
We have done enough work this day. Thank you, Judge Newman. There is a defense press conference after this. We're going to look at that. We can go take a real quick look at what Eric Bland said to Vinnie Politan on closing arguments as well. Emily, you read my mind with Sutton's name 'em. Yep. That's what popped into my brain because I've gotten all caught up on Beverly Hills. I'm getting all caught up on Salt Lake City. Newbie on Salt Lake City, Monica, is sitting next to Andy for the reunion. I can't wait to see what happens there. There's lots going on in the Bravo sphere. It's a lot to keep up on. We've gotten to the point of the Bravo comic universe where there are almost too many shows for me to keep up on. Like it used to be a delight. There was like one franchise and then like it would end and another one would start kind of overlapping the reunion. Now there's like 9 franchises going on at a time. And I just frankly don't have time to watch that much TV, which disappoints me, but it's also because I'm deeply invested in some of the audio series I've been going through and I can do them while doing other things more easily. Like the perpetual closet organization situation that I have going on. Every time I need to unpack, I have to rearrange my closet. Why? ADHD. Like it's like a puzzle. You go to put one thing away, but then something else is in the wrong spot. So that needs to get put away. And it's like a seek and find game. You end up with an entire reorganization. I'm going to zoom this forward till we get to the press conference for Jim and Poot. It is very brief, I believe. And then we'll go take a look at Eric Bland's statements on Court TV. And then we will have done enough work for this day, 3 hours in. I think Dr. B and I need to go to Trader Joe's and pick up some goodies for the rest of the week. So that's what we're doing. Do I like Southern Charm? Don't tell the folks on Southern Charm that I very much like that I've never watched their show. I have never watched Southern Charm. It's on my list to watch Southern Charm. Like it's on my list. The real Sarah said, that's why you should use the anti-planner. I have it here. I've got to gather all the planners because the law nerds have sent me lovely planners. I need to gather them all as the office cleanup is happening. The surfaces of my desk are covered. So I posted the last photo of the office cleanup that we had gotten much better, but I will share again if need be. But yes, I had posted the before and after in my Instagram stories. I'll repost it. So Southern Charm from, I need to watch Southern Charm, I know. And Southern Charm from season 1 to now, I get is a journey. It's a whole journey. Let me pull this down and see what's going on. We are almost at the end. You know what? Maybe I'll just go to another network and pull just the press conference.
Was a big
All right,
step.
hold on. Oh, poot.
Pretty
All right. Let me back beyond the spinny wheels of death and get into this press conference. Let me good Lord, let me swoop. Defense press conference. Let us go. All right. Delightful. Delightful.
We are hungry. Where's Holly? Hey, Holly, you want to get in on this?
Poot's ready for lunch.
Holly, so cool. Y'all.
Holly, you want to get in on this? What? Holly, by the way, would be the paralegal or associate that filed some of the affidavits in the other in the motion for new trial case.
Your cameras get a shot of Holly.
Hey, Holly. Hey, when you turn
Your camera should get a shot of Holly. He's like, yeah, we are hungry. Oh, good Lord.
Wait a minute, is tie straight?
Okay.
I'll let Lisa know you waited on me.
Did we wait on you?
Who's here from WIS? Where's WIS?
The defense, it seemed, was not super well received at CrimeCon. I didn't know CrimeCon was happening. Apparently, the next one's happening in Nashville. Do we need to go, law nerds? Do we need to do that? They're asking Poot if there's any interesting legislation pending. No.
I mean, everything I do is worth talking about, but I got a.
I'm really glad we're still at Code Green for everything I do is worth talking about, because I feel like I just threw up a little bit. Just y'all. Everything I do is worth talking about. Poot is giving I love my haters because at least they're talking about me vibes.
Pretty comprehensive Judicial Merit Selection Committee reform bill.
Poot, you're not that interesting.
Correct.
Bring us Barber!
Sounds like good legislation.
That's what I think.
The media is trying to be friendly with him. Can we just start whatever the fuck you want to say?
Ready? Anybody want to complain? Okay.
Yes.
So,
27 years is too
Jim
low.
and I believe today
Your client sucks. Your client is just the worst. Can you talk about restitution? How much have y'all been paid? Where did y'all get the funds for? Did y'all ever give back the retainer you were paid for Paul? How big was it? Was it hundreds of thousands of dollars? And did you just transition that retainer over to defend Alec against the murder of Paul? Because all of that feels really fucking weird. We got a lot of questions, sir.
In resolving Alex Murdaugh's issues, as Jim can tell you in more detail, since
I don't know if there's enough therapy in the world to resolve Alec Murdaugh's issues, but to resolve the 100+ indictments against your client for stealing from his clients. Yeah.
he admitted his financial crimes in September of 21. Is that right?
Exactly.
He's been wanting to plead guilty to these or resolve them since then.
The state didn't want to.
This is a big step. And we'll have, after the sentencing, we'll have more comments, but we have just obviously very brief comments today. Jim?
Yeah, are you unhappy with the state for not letting him plead till now?
Alex said in court, he'd been wanting to plead guilty. Really, the only impediment was
the state.
Would we have a plea terms that would give him an opportunity to get out of prison? And today we got those terms, and he's prepared to serve a long time. As he said to me as we were going into the courtroom.
Yes, please tell me more about what your client said to you, Jim.
You know, he feels very comfortable doing prison time for crimes that he did, and he knew that he was going to prison. He does not feel comfortable doing prison time for the murders of his wife and son, for which he did not do. And we still are singularly focused on exonerating him for those convictions, and we'll be having hearings, hopefully, probably the first of the year, but we don't know for sure.
And to that,
Sherry, I've seen a lot of comments like this in the chat, so I just wanted to pull it up to say what we know. Wanted to plead bullshit. Why drag the Satterfield men through this then? Why fight this? The state did not offer a plea. The attorney generals did not offer a plea in this case till now. So he did not have a plea on the table. So Rachel Mills said, I want to see this guy, Girardi, SBF, Elizabeth Holmes, and Lou Taylor all in group therapy. I mean, I could imagine a reality show with that, but I also kind of want to see Elizabeth. What are Elizabeth Holmes and Jen Shaw talking about in prison?
that end, the Supreme Court yesterday, as you saw, indicated they're going to appoint another judge to have a hearing on our motion for a new trial.
No, sir, no. Your motion got denied. The Supreme Court denied your motion. Judge Newman chose to step aside and voluntarily recuse himself. Don't come in here and spin this. Chose to voluntarily recuse himself so that another judge may be appointed to the motion for new trial. And you're probably not even going to get an evidentiary hearing from the new judge. But no, the Supreme Court denied your motion, sir. Denied the entire damn thing. Part of it is moot, and part of it because they didn't find founding. Poot! This is why this man infuriates me.
They're going to appoint another judge to have a hearing on our motion for a new trial. That motion, as you know, is based on jury tampering by the clerk of court.
They denied your motion.
So we're looking forward to now having this behind us and being able to move on to deal with, the issue that Alec has denied from the day he was arrested till now. Again, as Jim just pointed out, he's always admitted he stole this money. Never has denied it. We'll take just a couple questions and then we got to go.
He said he was happy to plead.
You were sitting here joking with the press saying, can you get a shot of Holly, and can you do with this, and can you do that? Now it's like, we've got to go. Shut up, Poot.
Guilty today for a number of reasons. Can you share?
Well, I think he'll share those with you more after the sentencing, but he'd like obviously put this behind him. His son Buster has been subjected to tremendous scrutiny and online.
That's not going to
stop. Harassment by everybody. Hopefully, this will help put that. And he's very concerned about his son Buster. Anything else, Jim?
Yeah, and he said in federal court when he did a plea to similar charges that, he wanted closure for the victims, and he, believe it or not,
when you say believe it or not, I'm probably not. But you know what he could have done? Jim, just hear me out. Hear me out, lawyer to lawyer. He could have not stolen from his clients, I'm just saying.
He cares for these victims, and he feels badly about it. And he was...
I'm glad we're already at Code Green. How do you think the victims feel hearing that? He cares for these victims. He feels badly about it. How do they feel? He could have chosen not to steal from them. You just don't. He caused it. He did it. He did all the things. He feels bad. He said he cares. He says he cares for his family too. It was decades of theft. Decades.
People want to diminish this, but he was in the throes of an opioid addiction, and it had taken over his life, and so he's opioid free, he's drug free, and he feels awful about his conduct.
And he's going to spend the next 22 years in prison apologizing for it.
Right.
Okay, thank you.
He's going to spend a lot longer than that, gentlemen. You don't have a wheelie truck for your boxes, Poot? Really? Where's your little hand truck? Why are you carrying bankers' boxes? Just wheel them out. All right. Do you guys chat? Let me know. Drop a 1 if you want to. Do you want to see what Eric Bland, lawyer for the Satterfields, has to say real quickly on Court TV? Just pop a 1 in the chat. We're at 3 hours and 15 minutes. I think it's a pretty short interview. So let me know if that's something that you would like to see, and we can hop over there next. Oh, that's a big old yes. Okay, then. Give me 1 moment to cue that up, and we will go take a look at that real quick. So, chat. The audacity of Alec Murdaugh is quite a lot. It's a lot. That was a lot. So let's see. Gloria Satterfield's attorney reacts to Alec Murdaugh plea deal. All right, let's pull this up. Holy shit, that's loud. All right, now we've got to redo our sound balancing so that we are not dying in the ear holes here. Let me zoom past all the reporting on what happened and the defense attorney's statement. I think we've gotten our segment queued up. We're going to go quickly to Court TV's interview with Eric Bland, attorney for the Satterfields. He's also on the Cup of Justice podcast with Mandy Matney. Let's go there. All right. Let's do that. I don't think we'll cover up much.
Us in Atlanta, Georgia, criminal
loud.
defense attorney Eklund Mercy. Also with us in New York City, founder of Villalona Law and former senior homicide prosecutor Bernardo Villalona. And in Columbia, South Carolina, partner at Bland Richter LLP, host of the...
He definitely has a look on his face at the moment. Let me try to move the closed captioning into a convenient place. This is still pretty loud. Let me turn this down just a little bit. Let's get back to 100% volume. There we go. Because that was
the very popular Cup of Justice podcast, and the attorney representing Murdaugh's victims, the Satterfield family. Eric Bland is with us. Eric, let me begin with you. Is that a true statement that do you believe, and do your clients believe, that he
cares
feels
for them?
bad about what he did?
Look, I don't know whether I can get inside his head and confirm that, but what I can tell you is what Jim Griffin just said at the microphone was categorically false. He did not, in September 21, acknowledge the responsibility and guilt. In fact, when we civilly sued him, 5 months later, Jim Griffin answered the complaint and denied the allegations in the Satterfield case that he had stolen the money. So, this is just trying to rewrite history. Look, Vinny, justice is never perfect. It's not pretty sometimes. You don't want to let perfect be the enemy of good. This is a good resolution because it gives the victims a chance to finally begin to heal. Alex has tormented and victimized these financial crime victims for the better part of 2 years. Don't forget, from the Satterfields, which is the case that he really pled guilty on today because it was coming to trial in a week and a half. He tried to draft them in as party defendants in the Nautilus insurance case in federal court. He gave them a confession of judgment in May of 2022 and then came right back this year.
He's been appalling to the Satterfield sons.
And tried to vacate that confession of judgment, then lost in the trial court on that,
and then tried
appealed
to rope them in.
Yes, we have to be suspect. Harpootlian are trying to play chess. I think they're playing checkers, but I think they're trying to play chess and they're trying to game. The fact is that Alex Murdaugh is never going to get out of prison. Remember, he's staring down the barrel of a federal court sentence once that pre-sentence report comes back from the September 20th plea of guilt. He's got 27 years on this and serving 85% of his time. No appeals, no chance of parole. He's 54 years old. The odds are serving about 21 years in state prison, maximum prison. Most people don't live over 72 years old. So if he does live past that 72, he's going to have to go back to federal court. Remember, the murder charge is still a double conviction. That could be reversed, but don't forget, he also has the roadside shooting felony charge still in front of him, and there's potential drug conspiracy charges coming down the pike for people who are cooperating. So I think.
And we've got state tax crimes, but the feds haven't popped in yet. We don't have IRS charges yet. And I think we could still see those.
Jim is Pollyanna thinking that he's going to have a chance to get out, but it is what it is.
So, Bernardo Villalona, do you think a prosecutor should feel good about wrapping up these financial crimes?
Yes, but I think it's too low. Let's see if Eric Bland has anything else to say in this segment, because I think that's all he has to say. Here we go. We're going to zoom to see what else Eric Bland has to say.
Tells me that the law from Marshall, which clients have been made whole.
All right.
Or your clients, have they been able to be made somewhat whole and being able to recover the money that he stole?
Sorry, Vinny.
Yeah. My clients have recovered over $7.5 million. So they lost $4.3 million, of which if the attorney's fees were paid, they would have ended up with $2.9 million. Now they've netted over $4.5 million. So in theory, my clients have been made whole. I know
they're
that
the only
Arthur
ones.
Badger has received his $1.3 million.
Oh, maybe not.
I've represented the Plyler sisters, and we have recovered well over now $1 million for them. I know that the Pickneys have recovered by Justin Bamberg. And I was in a deposition today, Vinny, all day with the receiver, the state court appointed receiver that have recovered $1.8 million. And I was shocked to learn less than 9 victims have applied for the victim compensation fund of that $1.8 million that has been marshaled in state court. So that tells me that the law firm has made a lot of people whole that were victims of Alex's fraud.
And they said they were going to.
I've also recovered for victims of Alex where he blew their statute of limitations and didn't file their cases on time. So the large majority of victims in this case are the law firm that has paid out a lot of money and Palmetto State Bank that has paid out a lot of money. So in answer to your question, the victims have received money from other law firms, from insurance companies, from banks, not necessarily from Alex. There's $1.8 million
That's good to know, though.
Lost because it was commandeered by the receivers. But from a monetary standpoint, victims have been compensated. From a justice standpoint, this is a white-collar crime, Vinny, and 27 years is a lot of time for a white-collar crime. I thought it should be more.
I think it should be more,
too. But I'm not unhappy because Judge Newman was pressing the state on all of these trials, and as my colleague just said, the savings is going to be enormous because each county where all of these financial crime cases were going to be tried, there were 6 different counties. They have to pay for these trials. And you saw how much money was spent in Walterboro on security, on court personnel, on extra bailiffs. And now they're going to sequester the jury in this case. So there's a tremendous savings.
Tremendous amount of money.
I believe justice was done. Compromise happens all the time. You did it when you were a prosecutor. It gives finality to the victims.
That's true.
It gives a chance for Creighton Wooders, who's a great lawyer, to start focusing on other matters that he wants to focus on.
All right. And that is what Eric Bland has to say. And he has represented numerous victims of Alec Murdaugh. So it is nice to hear how many of the victims have been compensated either by the former law firm PMPED through Palmetto State Bank through insurers and others. So it's interesting to hear what has happened with regard to the victims, and that only a few are left applying for funds through the receiver in the civil cases. That's good to know, which is why, I can be annoyed that I think the sentence is low all day long. But if the victims are compensated and are ready to move on and are happy with that, then the annoyance is only so far, right? If they are ready to move on, then that is truly what matters the most in a case like this. And we can go, seems low, but he's also got 2 life counts that I don't think are going away. I don't think those 2 life counts are going anywhere. And if they do, it is going to be a very long road to get rid of those 2 life counts. And he still has federal sentencing to come and other prosecutions left to go. Do I think we will ever see a day where Alec Murdaugh is free of the confines of jail? No. I think he's going to spend the rest of his life in prison one way or another, which was the goal of the prosecutors in this case. So with all of that, let's get to Q&A. I was glad we went and looked at what Eric Bland had to say. It was nice to hear what Eric Bland had to say and what the victims have received. It was good to know because he's much more in tune with that. And there is so many different cases that was nice to hear. All right, let's get to questions. I'm going to change the lights. It's time to let the green go. All right, let's continue on. Buttercup says, I've asked several times, what's your opinion of the Maya verdict? I talked about it on past streams. I did not watch the whole trial, so I do not have much of an opinion on the verdict because I did not watch the whole trial. So I defer to others who have watched the trial and who have covered the trial, but I did not watch it. So I do not have much of an opinion on the verdict, other than I'm glad a verdict was reached and that the jury didn't hang. And that those who covered the trial seem to think that the verdict is fair. So I don't have much opinion about something I didn't watch. Music to my soul. I love you, but why are the travel mugs in the shop hand wash only? It's because of the way the printing is done on them. Needs to use the dishwasher. You can relate. I do hand wash a lot of my cups because I don't want them to get damaged because it can damage the printing on the mugs. Glad to be watching today. Needed distraction. Last week, our house caught fire and I lost my entire room. Sunny, I am so sorry to hear that. I am glad you are safe. Dealing with insurance and stuff after a house fire is not pleasant at all. That is very, very traumatic. And I'm very glad that you are safe. And I hope everybody was. House fires are tremendously traumatic. Sean C. Kate said, military here. We always adjust the holidays. It as needs to happen. Maddie says, I'm the closing manager for Black Friday and I am not prepared. We projected to 76,000 and it's a cosmetic store. That's a lot, and good luck and Godspeed. May the customers be well fed, well rested, and not cranky. Katie, good to see you. I am so sorry that you lost your pup. That is a very, very hard thing. So the Lawnards are here for a little bit of a distraction. Sorry for your loss. It is hard. Albus was 17 when she passed. It was a very hard thing. At that point, they're teenagers, and you're like, I've had you for so much of my life. Did I see the SNL Roman Empire sketch? No, but I will go look for it. I'm so happy to hear you're going to cover Delphi. I have some concerns about the judge and would love to hear your input. It's going to take a little bit because there's so much going on in that case to on-ramp, but I'm going to be looking at some of the court stuff that is going on. I don't know if I will cover the trial. I'm going to look at some of the litigation with regard to the attorneys and the judge. But I will probably do it through the podcast because of the nature of the case and the child victims. So I love cups and yarn. I get that. Wishing you a wonderful Thanksgiving. Thank you. I'm still trying to get you on my show here in Pigeon Forge. You would be my dream guest. See, Lynn, I have no idea what your show is in Pigeon Forge. I've been there once. It is a delightful place. Thank you for being you. You are welcome, Faye. Happy holidays to you too. For stubborn stains on mugs, a polydent tab with hot water. Those should be the like denture tabs. Should help. This is why I like the mugs. These. I need to clean this one before I use it as an example, but they don't get stained. I don't know what I keep putting in it. I don't know why it's dirty, but it is. My big thing is free shipping. I will definitely spend more money for free shipping for sure. Good to see you, Karen. Peter Mon's daily vlogs are soothing to fall asleep to. I love all the suggestions for what you listen to while falling asleep. I started listening to Fourth Wing after you said you started it. I did. I finished Fourth Wing. I am now on Iron Flame. It has adulty content in it. So just for anyone who does not know the things, it has the things. It has the things. But does EDB Air offer points? We need to offer a rewards program. I just don't know how we would do it. Is it listed under Judge on the YouTube channel? We have linked that down below. Some of my lectures are on YouTube and have them set for no ads, but they still have ads play on them. Jessica, that does happen, that YouTube will monetize things even if you turn off ads. I find it very frustrating. It does happen. I still find it very frustrating. Thank you for all you do. You are welcome. Appreciative for your depth of coverage. That's the way we like to do it. So I try to make it understandable, but I also try not to just skip over the top. So we get all of it. Let's see. Judge 2X ruling, perfect timing. We are motivated. Tell us what to do. I'm not sure, Shrez, what this is referring to. But I'm not mad at Judge's ruling. So I'm not sure what that's referring to. Sorry if I misinterpreted. Congratulations. Thank you for the gifted memberships, friends. So plenty will get to join our members only. I will post the time of the members only. We have to decide what's going on with football because there is like sports ball things happening, and I don't know if my kid is going. Family things. We will decide, and I will post it in your members' stories. Don't worry. How does Santa check his naughty and nice list in these situations? I don't know. Hopefully he doesn't look at my Audible account. Happy Thanksgiving for EDB and the mods. Thank you. The Alfred plea regarding the law firm is irritating. There's still civil litigation pending. So I get it. Question, if he works in jail, could they take money for victims' compensation? That can happen where money goes to the victims' compensation funds. They have not talked about restitution at all. I don't know if they're ordering restitution. I guess we will see. If he pleads to the state charges and pleads to the federal charges, who takes custody because federal overrules state? First in time is generally what happens. And so if he is in on the murder and he is sentenced first on state, he would be in state custody first. So no, federal does not generally overrule state in that circumstance. Are lawyers' fees prioritized before victims' restitution? It depends on where the money is coming from, but generally lawyers will get paid long before a case ever settles and long before restitution is ever ordered. So in that sense, it normally gets paid first. But if money has to come out of like the receivership has already said they're not giving money to the lawyers for lawyers' fees. They gave them a certain amount of money. They're like, you have this much money for lawyers' fees, and that's it. If he has a new trial for the murders, do you think the jury will be sequestered? Possibly. I think it's possible. They were going to sequester them on this last trial, according to Eric Bland, so it's possible. Of all the trials covered this year, could you pick a judge of the year from those trials? I would have to think about it. I don't know. I can't remember what we covered in 2022 versus what we covered in 2023. So I don't know. I would have to think about it. Michelle said, can you tell me if you got my gifts from July? I'm sure they are here. Did you get custom pens? I did get lots of sparkly pens. They are in my desk. So yes, I generally get to the P.O. box late, but I get it. And it's here. I don't always have an opportunity to share it on social. So yes, if it came to the P.O. box, I will get it. Sometimes it just takes me a while to get to them and open them. Thanks for reminding me to feed my Snorlax. You're welcome. This is worth anything they can get on him. I think it's worth it for them to be done. Is this to try to emphasize the magnitude of what Alex did in hopes the judge sentences him longer? The judge cannot sentence him longer than 27 years. That is the deal. Tiffany asked, can I explain the part about Medicaid? They were talking about the way that he was funding things and where the money was coming from. They weren't saying that he was stealing from Medicaid. It was part of where the money was coming from and going. What about the insurance case with the Satterfields? That is ongoing. We have not touched back into the civil cases yet. Hunter, I hate that we couldn't meet, but hope you enjoyed Greenville. I was there so briefly. It ended up being a much quicker trip with travel than I anticipated. But as I travel more next year, well, I will be traveling less next year, but trying to extend the time so that I have set time where the law nerds can find me and meet up in person. So the Satterfield boys never got any of the $3 million they were promised. The $3 million, there's multiple videos on the insurance side of the lawsuit. So this ends up being more complicated, Lori, but I'm going to try to make it brief, like really brief, not Creighton Waters brief. The money that the insurance company paid out for the Satterfield settlement, that $3 million never went to the Satterfields. Alec stole it. But the Satterfields have since been compensated through the banks, other law firms, and insurances. So they have been compensated more than $3 million at this point. But that $3 million was paid by the insurance company and stolen by Alec. So they never got any of that $3 million, but they have since been compensated through other channels due to their civil lawsuits. But they had to get a lawyer and sue. Witness, good to see you. Jim and Lori, can I email or DM you, Emily? My daughter was inspired to go into law and took her LSAT 1111. My email is public. You can always email me. Those get seen. The team grabs them and saves them and shows them to me. My DMs, I don't always see. So congratulations. And 1111 is a great day to take the LSAT. So we love that. We love that. Kiora from New Zealand, glad to catch you live. Good to see you in New Zealand, and hello to you as well. Finally got to see you live. Missed you at BravoCon. I was running all around, but we did have a meetup, which was fun. Thanks for being knitting buddies. You are welcome. Hopefully it's productive. The chat was very productive today. Snow greetings. I'm waiting for snow here for sure. Emily said, can we acknowledge the shock that Tom Sandoval has made it to the final of the Special Forces show? He has a lot of anger to work through. I think JoJo Siwa has been a star. It's been really fun to watch JoJo on Special Forces for sure. I was wanting to see more Savannah Chrisley on Special Forces, but once she vomited out of all of her face, I think she was done. Eric said he will make a statements after sentencing that might get him sanctioned. If he's talking about not saying things about members of the bar, Alec Murdaugh is no longer a member of the bar. Just saying. But he's still in cases against him, so he does have to be careful. About to go fight people at the Walmart for food my mom just told me to bring Thursday. Lee, good luck. Good luck. We're going to have to run out after this, and it's been a long live stream, so my husband's going to be like, we're really leaving the house. I'm like, yes. Yes. I listen to your lives for sleep. Calms my anxiety. Well, good. They're nice and long. Thank you for all the well wishes. Thank you, members, for all the well wishes. Thank you, law nerds, for being here. I hope that we've answered your questions. On Tuesday, we are going to go through Alec Murdaugh's sentencing and bring a snack. We're just going to queue it up and see what happens. Mad X Mikey. So did Judge Newman formally accept the plea or not? His last statements confused me. Judge Newman has not accepted the plea until the victims are heard from. So the plea has been entered. The plea will be accepted and sentence will be disposed of on Tuesday, the 28th. So yes, he has pled, but no, it's not been accepted yet. We're kind of in the middle ground because there are, they need to have the victims have an opportunity to make impact statements or have their lawyers have an opportunity to make impact statements. So that. Got this week a game. It's going to take over my life. It's so fun. I love it. I love it the most. I did grocery pickup yesterday to avoid shopping. I did some grocery yesterday. How did the Alfred plea? So I keep saying Alfred, but it's Alfred. How did the Alfred plea come about? Most of these things are named after case law and named after the parties involved in the case. I would have to go back and pull legal research to find exactly which case. Question, are members getting a Dr. B&E whiskey stream this Thanksgiving? On Friday. I don't know what time yet because we have some logistics to figure out here. I think it will be in the evening. That is the goal. So I will post that in the member spaces. And then if you are not a member and would like to join that stream, then you will need to become a member on one of the places or be gifted a membership. And since it is Thanksgiving, I'm going to gift a round of memberships before we go for the day. So hopefully some of you will be able to grab a membership now. For all of you that lasted till the end of the stream on a very long stream, the week of Thanksgiving, I want to make sure that we gift some more members so you can join us. Remember, if you've been gifted a membership, you can go back and watch all of our old members only live streams. So YouTube does not allow us to disseminate them. They just gift them. I think it is based on chat activity, but they don't really let us know. So congratulations to all of the gifted members. I will try to gift some more next week, and you will be able to go back and watch. But if you're around on Friday, you are welcome to join E and Dr. B. I will probably explain some of the maybe chat. Should we make Dr. B watch Toxic Gossip Train? I bet it's still up on the internet somewhere. Do we do that? He doesn't know anything about Colleen Ballinger, like not at all. And we generally try to explain the internet to Dr. B. So maybe we try to explain, maybe that's where we start with explaining Toxic Gossip Train to Dr. B, because I am dying to see what he has to think. So maybe we do that. It's still on her channel? It's still on her channel. I thought it would have been taken down. I think we're going to have to do that. I think we're going to have to do that because he kept asking me, like, why do you have a ukulele? And then I got another ukulele at the P.O. box. I'm going to go grab it and bring it to the office. We'll bring in the ukulele. We're going to have to do that. He doesn't have the context. He knows that there was like a ukulele apology, but he doesn't really know what it is. We'll go to Code Green. We're going to go to Code Green and we're going to have to do that. I think he's seen the Wingstop video. We're going to have to explain the internet to Dr. B a little bit on Friday. So members, that's what you can look forward to. If you don't have the app, it is an international app. It is free. It is iOS. It is Android. We are doing our best to keep all of you in the loop. So if you would like to be kept in the loop, go sign up for the app. I will make sure you know when sales are starting, when sales are ending, when memberships are happening, when videos are going live, all the things. I will be in the chat with you tomorrow for the podcast. I'll give out some more memberships tomorrow on the podcast, no matter how many people we have. So tomorrow will probably be a slow day because it's right before Thanksgiving. So if you have not gotten a membership yet and you are still here, we'll give away some memberships. We'll give away some memberships on the app. Well, B2, good to see you. Well, she did come back just prior to the 6-month mark. Yep. And just prior to AdSense going up for most channels. There is definitely an AdSense bump for most channels end of November through December. Everybody's kind of dumping their Q4 marketing budgets that they still have left into YouTube. And a lot of people have time off and are watching YouTube. So we'll do that. Thank you all for the gifted memberships. I am very excited that we have a plan for Dr. B. Oh, Dr. B, we got a plan for you. I've seen people talking about this. Did I see the apology video? I saw Adam McIntyre cover the vlog. I don't see it as an apology. I see it as an acknowledgement, kind of. I can't wait to see it broken down by all the PR folks. So I need to see what Molly McPherson has to say about it. I'm sure she'll cover it on her podcast. I will see you guys here tomorrow. We will be gifting some more memberships in the podcast, and I will talk to y'all soon. Thank you. I'm thankful for you. I'm thankful for this chat and this incredible community. Thank you for being a part of it. See you guys soon. You can stay up to date with everything I'm covering and fast notifications on our free iOS and Android app at lawnerdapp.com or search the App Store for Law Nerd. You can also follow me around social media, and don't forget to check out my podcast, The Emily Show, with quick bits dropping every Monday, summarizing everything I do here on the live streams on Tuesday and Thursday for when you just have time for the quick bits. Thanks for being a Law Nerd.